Yeah, man. Greetings, Rastafari, Hail Emperor the King Selassie the First, the Perfect Balance Empress Menin. This is first man for Rastafari Indigenous Village, recognizing, accepting, promoting Lion Voice. Yes, the voice of Rastafari, speaking about Rastafari, educating Rastafari, preserving, protecting Rastafari. Give thanks.
Aye,
Yes,
Rastafari, mighty.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes. Wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the lion's voice, we come to tell our story. Rastafari, live it. Hey, the lion's voice. Rastafari.
Blessed love, this is Rashala representing for the Lion's Voice, seeing? Yeah, man, keep it locked right here, sir. On to Zion we go. Lion Voice don't move slow, no. Rastafari rules and reigns, and we're going where the blessings flow. Keep it locked right here, sir, seeing? Rashala said that. Lion's Voice.
I'm Nana Farika. The time has come for the lioness to tell her story from her viewpoint and tell the world who Queen Omega is. This is the lion's voice.
Greetings, this is Junior Martin of Bob Martin and the Wailers. The time has come for the lion to tell his story. And we have here the lion voice. So listen in and get nourishment for the stomach and for the head cup. Jah, Rastafari.
Rastafari. Give thanks,
Give thanks and praise every time.
Great honor, great honor.
What are you waiting for? Come together, calling from near and far. Know who you are. What are you waiting for? Rally up, it takes the dust. What are you waiting for? Ancestors paved the way for us. Yes, I am Ketis Oyonde, asking, what are you waiting for to come together? The time has come for the lions to tell our own story. This is the lion's voice.
It's AWTITUDE representing for Lion's Voice. Yes, massive. This is the time for I and I, the lion, them to tell I and I story, our story. Yes, and we reign and rule like this. Reign and rule, yeah. Selassie, I reign and rule. You can't take the lion vibes, people. If you no fool, cause we know Selassie reign and rule. Reign and rule. Selassie, I reign and rule. Queen Omega drop them in the fire, pull from them, no Queen Omega, she reign and rule. Royal Kushite, ancient essence, Emperor Selassie in a majestical presence, flash of all sevens, projecting through I and I events. We sing a song for the king, we bring joy and blessing and understanding, yeah. We hear Jah every day, hey. Reign and rule, yeah. Selassie, I reign and rule. Yes, I lion vibes, Selassie, I reign and rule. Attitude say that Boondocks, Black Organization of Global Diplomats optimizing expressions to the world. Tiluo, tilie.
Well, Lion Voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion Voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion Voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion Voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion Voice.
Yeah. Rastafari. Emperor Haile Selassie the First. Tell the people about Empress Menin.
Well, even if the stars they fall and the moon turn into blood, well, to the coming war we stand tall. I will shower you with my love. And even when the people start ball, cause they see the city streets them flood. But when the hurricane blow down their wall, I'll be by your side and me now but think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day. to eye. Your love was a lifeline. Think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. Almighty, I made your light shine, and eye to eye, that light was a lifeline. It seems like the world is upside down. I will never hide, I'd rather stand my ground. Lion of Judah blessed with the triple crown. Can't come fool I with no circus clown. Now fear no hurricane or the cyclone. Respect for Mama Earth with that embedded on me bone. That's why I will never leave you alone. Protect you from harm when the alarm sound. So even when the stars they fall and the moon turn into blood, to the coming war we stand tall. I will shower you in my love. And even when the people start mal, because they see their city streets them flood, when the hurricane blow down our wall, I'll be by your side and me now budge. Think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. The Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, your light was a lifeline. I think I found the love of a lifetime. I love you every day or the night time. The Almighty, I made your light shine, and unto I, your love was a lifeline. They say hurt people. Maybe that's why Babylon them so evil. Maybe Babylon abused as a child. Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of His chosen Queen, Empress Waziri Menen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the Chazmatch Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man, creative industry attorney. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of Lion Talk Live. Welcome to Lion Talk Live, and welcome to the Lion Voice Network, where the lions are telling our own story. Tonight, we have a very special guest. We are going into our Pan-African lane tonight. Not a Rastafari brethren tonight, but one of our Pan-African family to talk about our STEM subject. You know, on this channel we have our Rastafari and STEM series. We're all about building on this channel, and we can't build without mathematics. So every time I see a mathematician, my eyes light up, because it's an opportunity. We want to get our young people into the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields. If we want to transform the continent, transform the diaspora, we're going to have to build. I was just watching Brethren Wodamaya. If you don't know about the vlogger, African vlogger Wodamaya, I think he's close to 2 million subscribers. Go check out his channel. He has a series he just dropped on Ethiopia. If you see Addis Ababa, you know what I mean, it make Dubai look shabby. You know what I mean, the way that Addis Ababa is being built. And we know that that's being built upon the vision that was set by His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I. So to see the manifestation in this time, they finally fulfilling some of the vision, clean up the whole city. But that took engineering, that took architecture, and we're going to find out tonight a lot of mathematics involved in all aspects of that development. We also had Ibrahim Traore selected as the head of the AES for the year. The first year was a Semi Goita, the head of Mali. Now Ibrahim Traore. So the whole Africa right now, I feel a vibes. We're feeling bouncy right now around the diaspora. Ibrahim Traore at the helm of the AES. That's
Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso broke away, and they are shaking up the place. They just established a development bank, and they capitalized it to 900 million. When a man build a bank, that's when you know he's serious. You know what I mean? Mathematics again. You know what I mean? The numbers, interest, compound. These countries are using gold to back their play. Serious moves on the chessboard. You know, we love to talk about geopolitics and the chessboard over here. So tonight we welcome a professor, entrepreneur, brethren who has created his own ecosystem on YouTube as well. He's a fellow YouTuber as well. So we're gonna find out about his platform. We're gonna ask one to go and support the platform, go subscribe, whole nine. But before we bring forward the brethren, let me just take the time to big up the greatest online community on the planet, the Lion Pride. If you subscribe, you're part of the Lion Pride. I have to big up my global family. I see Sister Hayden in the comments. Big up yourself. It's a long time. I know I Sister Rashid and good sistren from college days, you know what I mean? So it's a joy. I'm part of the Lion Pride on Patreon. Those are our monthly subscribers. So we're changing the face of how we build community. To be independent and non-aligned, you have to be crowd-funded, direct to consumer. That's the model right now. Anything you're doing, any product or service, you have to go direct to your consumer. You have to build that community. So we're all in the same boat. So if you love what you see here on the Lion Voice Network, you want to become part of our community, help us to define what media looks like for Rastafari, for Pan-African family, world class. We're starting humble, but we're moving toward the world class. Our own studio, the whole nine, correspondence. We're going for the whole thing. So if you want to be part of that vision, join the community, be part of history. You can be in Ubuntu Lion Pride 100 US one-time contribution. You get a lifetime commemoration as an Ubuntu Lion Pride. If you want to do the Ubuntu, we'll put up the information. But also, the Ubuntu is going to move up from $100. It started at $50. We went to 75. Now we're at 100. It's going to go up to 150. So if you catch it by January 1st, it's going to be 100. So if you want to be immortalized in this platform, when we get a physical space, there'll be a wall, there'll be something with all the Ubuntu. You want to be part of that immortalization in terms of the rise of this platform, then I would say come in Ubuntu. If you just want to support, you can support at any level. You can just like, comment, share. You can be part of the Action Lion Pride. That's our largest. We get the analytics. I see how many of the items are sharing the content, pushing it out there. If you want to be a part of our WhatsApp group, you can send I a message. We just started the WhatsApp group. We can fit, I think, 1,025 people in that. That's going to be the exclusive self-contained community. So if you want to be part of our WhatsApp group, just send I a message and we can add you to the WhatsApp group. You can subscribe on the website, so we have your email. Send me your phone number and we can add you. So we're building on all fronts. This Sunday, we're going to have our annual our monthly town hall meeting, 10 a.m. To 12 p.m. We're going to have a special guest. I'll announce a special guest. Probably tomorrow we'll drop the name. Big special guest to end the Roman calendar year. So if you want to be a part of that, you have to join the Patreon at the $10 level and above to be part of our monthly meeting infrastructure. So join and join the town hall, become part of the movements. Saturday, we have a special episode to close out the Roman calendar year with the reading Ras on the front line, our elder Sekou Tafari. We have 4 special guests, 2 who have been trying to get on this platform for years. And finally, this is going to be a premiere. I'm talking about Dr. Desta McGoo. I'm talking about Sister Mitzi. So hopefully we'll see it manifest. Also, Sister Aisha will be returning. Sister Rakina will be joining for the first time. And of course, our elder Sekou Tafari. So if you mark your calendar, Saturday, 4 p.m., that flyer is going to drop tomorrow. So we're fully loaded. We have a lot more content coming. I'm working on the 3rd episode of The Road to Heaven on Earth. It's fire. So we got so much things happening, so much things coming. So I just want to give thanks with gratitude for everyone watching live, all of the items that we'll watch on the replay. It's been a beautiful journey, and we're going to continue. We're not going to stop. We're full enjoying ourselves. We're just getting started. Also, February 1st, mark your calendar, exclusive. RMO will be holding an international webathon for the hurricane relief in Jamaica. It's going to be massive. Artists, celebrities. We are one of the official media sponsors, so we'll be dropping that information tomorrow, the save the date. So big things are happening, family. We're just getting started. So give thanks. Big up Ramia King Design. Big up Frontline Books. Big up Wally King's Design. Big up all of the sponsors who support the operation. We are in gratitude. All right. Housekeeping out of the way. Now we get ready to welcome a guest that is powerful. I just did an interview up at I Never Knew TV that will be airing in the new year. And this brethren was doing an interview as a regular up at I Never Knew TV. Big up Junior the Ballad, all the I Never Knew TV family. If you don't know, I Never Knew TV, one of our biggest Pan-African platforms. I have a lot of content on there as well. Lion Voice is on there. I have several interviews on there. But I saw the brethren and look up the brethren and see that he's dealing with mathematics, and right away, boom, we asked him to come on the platform and he agreed. So this is why I tell people that our network is our superpower. Because I don't know this brethren from anywhere, but he's part of the network. So if you live good, you know what I mean, surround yourself with brilliant people. You literally take onto yourself divine power. So we have to overstand that limitless. You know what I mean? Become a brethren's brethren is my brethren, same way. You understand? All right. So let us know where you're watching from. If you're watching from live, this is the international show. Let us know where you're watching from. Lion Pride is global, and help us to give a warm Lion Voice Network welcome to this brother, the brethren, the new brethren. Welcome, Akil Parker. Blessings. Yes. Yes. Greetings, my brother.
Glad to be here, brother.
Blessings, blessings. Give thanks for your patience. We're long-winded over here. We like to reason. So give thanks for your patience. But it's an honor to have you here. I'm excited about this one. We have a tradition here at the Lion Voice Network where we ask our guests to step into the Lion Talk time machine. So I want you to step into the time machine. I want you to take us to the moment of your birth. You know, Marvel movies, they got the origin story of the superhero. I want you to paint the origin story of this powerful mathematician. Where were you born? You know, what was it like growing up? And where did the love of math start from?
Yeah, so there are 3 cities that frame my development, 3 main cities. This New York City, where I was born, Baltimore City, where I was raised as a child and a teenager, adolescent, and Philadelphia, where I really came into manhood and adulthood as an independent, an adult and a father, and also as a teacher. So let's start in New York City. So I was born back in 1980. Um, my parents were college students at the time of my birth, and they met in college. And then, my mom ended up leaving school, and so she could have me. And so I created a detour for her life,
Okay.
so to speak. But and then my father ended up leaving the school he was at and ended up transferring to a school in New York City to be closer to her and to be closer to me. But that's very important, a very important part of my history because it influenced my trajectory and also laid a foundation for me because my parents were involved in a community of Pan-Africanism.
Okay.
My mother ended up when she went back to college, she transferred to Hunter College in Manhattan.
Yes.
And while she was there, she was in the Black and Puerto Rican Studies department, which at that time was led by Dr. John Henrik Clark.
Okay.
So she was taking courses with Dr. John Henrik Clark, and also at the same time, she was taking courses with Marimba Ani, who at that time had not changed her name. She was still Professor Donna Richards or Dr. Donna Richards. So she was taking courses with them, and some days she didn't have a babysitter for me when I was like 2 or 3 years old. And she would just take me to class, take me to campus, and I would sit in the class, with her. So I was being, kind of poured into by those types of scholars, from an very early age.
Stick a pin 1 second. For those who are just joining us, he's giving us Pan-African cloth talk. He's just letting you know he's cut from the cloth of the Pan-African movement. He's giving you the real deal. He's calling some names. Lock in. We're going in it. All right, continue.
Yeah, so I'm like two or 3 years old, and I'm in those spaces. Now, do I vividly remember what Dr. Clark was saying in those lectures? No. Do I vividly remember what Marimba Adi was saying in those lectures? No. But I know I was there, and it makes sense because years later, when of my own volition, when I started to study their work as a grown man, the work really resonated with me. Like Yorugu really resonated with me. When I finally started reading that. I still need to finish Yorugu, by the way. I kind of feel bad that I still haven't finished that. But I need to finish Yorugu. But in watching a lot of Dr. Clark's lectures that we can find on YouTube, and reading some of his books that he wrote before he transitioned, it seemed very familiar, to me. So that was like my foundation. That was my foundation. My parents exposed me to Kwanzaa, I basically been studying, not studying, but practicing Kwanzaa like my whole life, before it became popular, you know what I'm saying? So, I'm glad to see, more people, embracing it, but, that's kind of like, my background, and I was the only child until I was 4 years old when my sister came along. And then I wasn't the only child anymore. And then after that, then I had a brother, then I had another sister a year after that. And then a few years later, I had another sister. So I'm the oldest out of 5. But so New York really laid the foundation and kind of got me exposed to Pan-Africanism, within my family and within the community of people that, my mother and father connected with, while they were young parents, So that's probably like the major role. And in addition to the fact that my mom was born and raised in New York. So I had the village was there. Like, I had my uncles, around, and my aunts around, my grandparents around. My dad was from Jersey. So, I have family over there too. So in addition, I also had like a very, a lot of support from family as well. So that kind of is the essence of like how New York influenced me. And then when we moved to Baltimore, that's really where
How old were you when you moved to Baltimore?
Moved to Baltimore when I was 7.
Was 7. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember early New York? Were you listening to hip hop back in those early days?
I remember listening to DJ Red Alert on WBLS. Well, no, he was on Kiss FM. He was on 98.7 Kiss FM. The first rap song I remember like vividly was Eric B and Rakim, Eric B for President.
Big tune people.
Yeah, that's when I became a fan. I was immediately a fan. My dad had the stereo receiver and he had the big speakers. He had the receiver with the tape deck and the equalizer. remember I used to try to play with the equalizer, and I never I was always used to wonder like how do you get the music to like sound perfect, and I would like play with the dials on the equalizer and whatnot when I was little. But yeah, the tape deck, of course the turntable on top, because he had a record collection. He had a lot of records and whatnot. So
at age seven, were you already in love with math at this point, or what did that come later?
Nah, the love for math actually came real late. The love for math actually.
Don't go there yet. Don't go there yet. Take me to Baltimore. Let's go to Baltimore. We're going to Baltimore.
Right, go to Baltimore. All right. So in Baltimore, it's like 87. And I realized that, so Carmelo Anthony has an exhibit at the main library in Baltimore, the Enoch Pratt Free Library, called the House of Mello, which is actually kind of dope. Okay. I'm involved with this after-school mentorship program at a school in Baltimore. We took some young brothers down there to see that. I never seen like a museum exhibit in a library before. Okay. Which I thought the idea was kind of dope. But I bring him up because I've realized that we have like a similar background in that. Like, so he was born in New York, even though he was in Brooklyn, and he moved to Baltimore when he was 8. And then grew up in Baltimore from there. But I grew up in Baltimore, but I moved to Baltimore when I was 7, and grew up from there. But I moved to Baltimore. It was like a change of pace. Of course, nowhere is New York. New York is not nowhere. So like people shouldn't even compare. When you come out of New York, you shouldn't even compare it to any city that you go to. No. But a lot of people try to do that though. But yeah, it was different. I think the main difference was like I didn't have a family connection. I didn't have a family support. I used to be jealous of my classmates when, on Fridays, and they'd be like, I'm going to my grandmother's house this weekend, or about to go over my cousin's house, and I'm like, man, my cousins and them, they 200 miles away, man. I can't go chill with them. So I used to be envious and jealous, but I had friends in my neighborhoods and whatnot. So I would hang out with my friends, but still it wasn't the same, as having that experience like a lot of people had. But yeah, so, grew up in Baltimore, went to Baltimore City Public Schools. I had, the opportunity to go to, magnet schools. I went to a magnet elementary and middle school, Roland Park Elementary Middle School. And, I got exposed to some things, some academic rigor that, unfortunately everybody's not exposed to, which has influenced and informed a lot of the work that I do, because I'm really trying to democratize mathematics education, because I realized that there were a lot of people that were just as intelligent as I was, or even more intelligent than I was, but they didn't have access to the opportunities and to the classes and the content that I was exposed to at these like so-called, good schools that I went to,
So during the crack epidemic, you were somewhat shielded from what was going on in Baltimore, because of course Baltimore is world famous for being one of the hot spots in the drug war.
Yeah, so like my community, I didn't see that in my immediate community where I lived at, where I laid my head at night. And then on my path to school, it didn't require me to like travel through that, like a lot of my classmates or my peers, unfortunately that got exposed to a lot of that. I was like you said, I was insulated for the most part. I had very, very minimal exposure.
Yeah, which is a blessing. But how did that affect the culture in the suburbs? Because, the street culture through the music, and what kind of music were you listening to in Baltimore? Who were some of the artists that you were listening to as a high school student in Baltimore?
Oh, high school. So that's later on. So high school, I was at Baltimore Polytechnic Institute.
Okay.
And I'm listening to like the music, like all the, me and my friends listen to a lot of like Wu-Tang, Nas, Jay-Z, the Lox.
So New York hip hop.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
You weren't into the Baltimore house and all of that. That wasn't your scene.
No, we listened to that too, but that was mainly just for parties. That was just for partying. We would go to parties and dance with the girls. Because the girls like to dance to that, so that's what we would. That was the purpose of that. But yeah.
So did the love for math happen in high school?
Nah.
Okay, nope. Later. It's later. Nope. Okay. Take us. All right.
I'll say this. I'll say elementary school, middle school, high school. I had an appreciation for math,
Yes.
but math was like a means to an end. Like I didn't
Yes.
really, I had an appreciation for, so it's kind of dichotomous, or not dichotomous, contradictory. I had an appreciation, but I didn't really appreciate it at the same time. I liked getting good grades, and I liked the status that was assigned to me because I was a person that did well in math.
Okay.
So I had like a certain
So
credibility.
you were using math to get the girls. You were flexing with the math score.
I don't think it really got me girls, but you know, I mean, it was something to add to my resume, you know.
Okay.
I mean, maybe might have got me a couple of girls, you know, but you know, most of the girls didn't really care about that. But you know, it got me access. It got my foot in certain doors and in certain spaces. But
and let's examine that. Why do you think that the girls didn't care about you being proficient in math, or you know, for young people? Why isn't that something when? I mean, we know that people who are proficient in math are more likely to make more money. You know, that correlation is there. So why do you think for young people, the math wizard is not getting as many girls as a basketball star or you know, the quarterback?
Well, I'll say this. My dad still says this to this day. He said it when I was younger. He said he would always say, "Youth is wasted on the young." And I think that applies to girls and boys equally. You know, you know, the girls, you know, a lot of girls just, you know, it's about immediate gratification. You know, what's flashy. You know, the guy that, you know, is like good at math, and you know, you might not be thinking long term. You know, he might end up being an engineer or a computer scientist or a doctor or something. You might not care about that, you know, when you're 15 or you're 15 or 16. You want the guy that, you know, she might want the guy that's like, you know, popular, you know, seems like he got a lot going on right now.
Yes,
like, you know, it's not about the long-term investment, you know. So you know, plus there's that whole concept of like, you know, being a nerd is seen as, you know, not favorable. A lot of propaganda, a lot of negative propaganda around like scholarship and like intellectualism.
So, were you a nerd in high school? Were you considered a nerd, or what was your profile?
Well, so the thing with me is, and I think, you know, rest in peace to the ancestor Juwanza Kunjufu, because when you ask that question, one of his books comes to mind. Not Countering the Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, not that one. That's a classic. But To Be Popular or Smart. So I would say I was a nerd in high school.
Hold on, stick a pin. I want everyone to take note. That was a gentle flex. He's a reading man, you know. Him just throw out a couple of book titles. You know, he's thorough. All right, continue.
I learned. I've been listening to hip hop my whole life. That's what the rappers do. They name drop. They always name drop.
That's it. I love it.
So his book, To Be Popular or Smart, talks about how, like, you know, there's a decision some children have to make. But so yeah, I would say I was a nerd, but I went to school with people everybody was a nerd in my school. Like everybody was like college bound.
Okay.
Unless they wanted to do something entrepreneurial, but everybody had post-secondary goals, right? So I never had to make the decision like, okay, do I go hang out with them and goof off and cut class and whatnot? Even though, I mean, I did cut class sometimes, but
yes.
I would always make sure my work was done first, and then I would cut class. Right?
Yes.
But it was like I never had to make that choice, because we was in the environment, like we was all nerds pretty much, you know. Exactly. But we was still cool at the same time, you know.
Which is beautiful, because and it shows how much environment, you know, matters to young people, because the environment you were in, academics was still prioritized. So even though you had fun, which, you know, I had that same kind of experience, especially at Howard. You know, you're around people that they're making sure their work is done. It's not that stereotype where you're lazy. We putting in the work, but then we playing hard as well. You know what I mean? And I think more young people need to see that perspective, that, you know, being studious doesn't mean you neglect your fun time or your joy of being young, and having that fun time doesn't mean you neglect excellence. You know what I mean? And pursuit of that. So I love that. So,
but let me add. Can I add to that though?
Yeah, go through.
So years later, after my high school experience, I didn't realize until I became a classroom teacher how, you know, what I took for granted. Because like I taught in schools that were unlike my high school that I went to as a student. I taught in schools that were like the comprehensive high schools, um, the neighborhood charter schools or the neighborhood high schools in Philadelphia, where as a young black male, they did have to make the decision like, do I want to be with the cool kids or do I want to be smart and do my work? Where there really was a dichotomy in that situation. And at first I didn't realize that. And then I started thinking back on my experience, and it led me to realize why institution building for black people is so important, and especially educational institutions, so that we can create the institutions where young brothers and young sisters don't have to make those choices. It don't have to be an either or thing.
Yeah.
Like being cool or being smart. You can be cool and be smart, you know? But yeah, because it could be rough, because when social capital is involved, and you say, well, if I'm 14 or 15, like, do I think I can get more social capital by goofing off, hanging out in the hallways, smoking weed in the bathroom, cutting school, leaving school early, coming in late, leaving early, jumping people, getting in fights? Do I think I can get more social capital by doing that? Or do I think I can get more social capital by sitting in class, being studious, being intellectual, grinding academically? Like a lot of times it's the former and not the latter. So a lot of people will make the
by design.
choice.
By design.
Yeah. So, and oftentimes what happens is, as outsiders, adults, even educators, will kind of just hold the youth to this standard. Well, you just made a bad choice, and it's true, they did make a bad choice, but the environment actually lended itself toward them making that bad choice. So we as the adults have to do a better job, if we're serious about this, serious about changing the outcomes for young people, of creating environments where they don't even have to make that choice. Like that shouldn't even be a choice that they have to make, especially at such a young age, because you're not, when you're young, you're not thinking about consequences. I didn't have to make that choice. But oftentimes I wonder if I had not been in the type of school that I attended, I might have made the wrong choice. I might have been like, I'm trying to go hang out because the cool, they over there messing with the girls and everything, and I'm trying to go do that,
Yeah, exactly. No, it's very easy, and we have to understand that no one's coming to save us, and we have to really, we're one of the only people that has trusted our education of our young people to people who don't have our best interests at heart. You know what I mean? So, the wealthy people, they have their private schools to groom their children to take over their companies. You know what I mean? Don't trust the public education system for their youth education. So we got to wise up. But what I love about you is that you didn't stop at high school. You went to a HBCU like myself. We're close in age, around the same time. Where did you go for university?
So initially, I didn't matriculate at this school, but initially I went to Morehouse. So I went down to Atlanta for my freshman year. I was at Morehouse.
Atlanta's one of my places too. That's one of my places I love.
Yeah. So I was down there in Atlanta in 97 to 98. Went to Freaknik, that spring, my freshman year.
So for young people, that was something that was, it's inappropriate, but it was a lot of joy for the people who went, but it was inappropriate. You don't want to look it up online.
So, some aspects of it got inappropriate. So it's kind of like Greek Fest in Philadelphia.
Yes,
was Jones Beach Greek Fest in New York.
Yes.
Like similar to those. But yeah, so I was at Morehouse for my freshman year of college, and then I was homesick. And also I had I think I had inappropriate expectations for Morehouse.
Okay.
I just in my mind it was gonna be this perfect place. And no place is perfect, but me being young and a teenager and having teenage angst and really just wanting to get away from my parents and have freedom and get out of Baltimore. Just it would seem like something to do, a good place to go. But then I realized I didn't really want to be away, so I ended up transferring to Morgan State in Baltimore, and so I ended up going there, and then I matriculated there. But while I was there, I dropped out of school for 2 years while I was there,
Okay.
and I was
without just life pressure. Just why did you drop out?
I dropped out because I was trying to make money.
Okay.
Got involved in this. I got involved in this network marketing company, and
which one? Because
I was doing prepaid legal services.
Okay, I remember when that took the place. I remember.
I was selling the legal shields.
Yes, I remember
memberships.
That.
Yeah. And one day I was in class. I was a finance major. I never wanted to be a teacher. I wasn't an education major. Originally, I never wanted to be a teacher. I'm glad I became a teacher, but I never wanted to originally.
Mm-hmm.
I was a finance major. I wanted to be an investment banker or equities trader or something along those lines. CFA, financial analyst, something like that. But one day I was just sitting. I remember one day I was just sitting in class, just like listening to the professor talk, and I was thinking, like, man, I'm broke. I'm just sitting there listening to this guy talk about money, like talking about making money, but I don't have no money. And then I was like, and then I'm like, I'm involved in this business kind of part-time with it. And I'm like, man, what if I go full-time, man? I might be able to make some money, man. So again, like I mentioned earlier, immediate gratification. Yeah, I was young. Like my dad says, youth is wasted on the young. Yeah. So I ended up dropping out of school and just trying to go locking in. I locked in, so I dropped out of college.
Were you making money? Were you making good money with the prepaid?
Nah, nope. No, I never did.
If you don't get in early with that marketing stuff, it's rough.
Yeah.
And you gotta have a network. You got it.
Yeah.
It really your class strata. And a lot of people who don't have strong networks. If you're from upper middle class or you're wealthy, those are the people who have the networks usually to sustain that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So just, what I mean? But
that's one of the things I learned. How that works, because you got to be able to get on the phone and be like, look, I'm in this business. And the person on the other end got to just say, okay, how much is it? Oh, $250 to register. All right, I'm going to send it right over. You got to have those type of people. You got to have like 20 or 30 people just like that.
Exactly.
And that's how people blow up in those types. And then those people have those types of people. And then it grows exponentially. See, it's all about the math.
Exactly.
Exponential growth.
Okay.
So that's how it works.
Now we're touching on the math. So when did the math come? Did it come at Morgan?
I was a finance major, so we had to take a lot of all the finance courses were, grounded in a lot of algebra, commercial bank management. What else did I take? Real estate, principles of real estate, risk management, the insurance courses, financial management, international financial management. So, it was a lot of algebra and like the formulas that we had to use to do analysis of a lot of the concepts in those classes. So it came into play, in undergrad as well. But yeah, when I came back to school.
Yeah, what was the light bulb moment that you said, all right, math is my purpose, that's my calling?
Oh, that was later. So I come back to school, I graduate from school. One of the reasons I came back to school was because I'm working this job. I'm doing telephone sales. I'm selling, it was a bait and switch scam actually.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it was like it was a telephone sales company. They were selling collectible commemorative coins. It was like in Westchester County, New York. I used to take the Metro North train from the Bronx, because when I dropped out, I moved to New York with my grandmother. I was staying in the Bronx, so I went back to New York. But I was staying there, and I would go up to this company. The company would put advertisements in newspapers around the country to like prey on old people. Newspapers they knew old people would be watching. I didn't realize this at first, but the goal was to upsell, right? That's how we made more money from the upsell, 3%. So I was doing math on this job to make sure my paychecks was going to be straight, because you would get 3% off of, if you sell them what they called in for, you get 3%. But then if you upsell them, because it's classic bait and switch.
Yeah.
You advertise the fake version. You put the ad in the newspaper to make it seem like you're selling the real version. But if they don't read the fine print, then they're not going to realize that what they're calling in for is not the real version. When they call in and you talk to them on the phone, you got to let them know, like, well, this is not the actual solid silver coin or solid silver proof. right? So it's the classic bait and switch
Okay.
that I learned
You try to
about.
get them to actually buy the silver coin.
Yeah, some people didn't care. Some people were like, "All right, yeah, sure, give me both of them," you know. But then some people would get upset, you know, because they realized that the company was taking advantage of them. They hang up the phone on you and whatnot. But that was another lesson about, you know, how capitalism functions.
Yes.
You know,
Exploitative.
yeah. But I'm working that job, and I'm like, man, this can't be my life, man. I can't be doing this for the rest of my life. I need to go get my degree, man. I can't live like this. So I only had 3 semesters left. So I was like, let me just go back, knock these semesters out, and then, you know, take my degree and then, you know, try to leverage that. So that's what I did, you know. Plus I met a girl that, you know, I fell in love with too. And she was in college. So I was like, I started thinking, you know, in terms of the future. I'm like, well, I don't want her to have a degree. And if we're gonna be together, I don't want to be unequally yoked. I don't want her to have a degree and me not have a degree. I was like, let me go back to school. You know, so she kind of influenced me too. Don't tell her I said that, but you know what I mean.
No. Love will do that. Love will do that. Love will do that. You know what I mean? We're pro love over here. Love that.
But I don't want to give her too much credit. You know what I mean? But she did influence me in a positive way. But you know, that's what women do sometimes. You know, women do that.
And we have a saying over here. We say purpose over pum pum over here. You know what I mean? Because I talk to young men about staying focused on the mission before you go get your queen, get yourself established. You know what I mean? And a lot of young brothers make that mistake in taking on these big time responsibilities without having the financial foundation, which brings us back to the mathematics again. You know what I mean? But take us to that epiphany moment where you realize, all right, mathematics is my purpose.
That still came later. So, you know, that so I finished college, and then that girl that I was in love with.
All right.
I end up getting her pregnant.
Okay.
And I need a job, because the job that I first had when I graduated from Morgan, I worked there for a year, and then that wasn't a good fit. So I had to resign.
What was your degree? What was your degree in?
I had a bachelor's in finance.
Finance, okay.
Yeah, I got my bachelor's in finance. So I ended up becoming a bank examiner with the FDIC.
Okay.
So, but my accounting background was weak. I only had to take 2 accounting courses to get, you know, to fulfill my finance requirements.
Yes.
But when I applied for the job, you know, they said that was enough. But I realized like that wasn't enough. I needed like more accounting.
Okay.
Because the things they were asking me to do, I'm like, I was clueless with a lot of the things they expected me to do. You know, and somebody was supposed to be training me. I was supposed to be like an apprentice under somebody that was in there, but I never worked with this woman not one day that whole year.
Wow.
So if I'd have knew then what I know now, I would have just told them, I probably would have told them, go ahead and fire me. And then I probably would have filed like a complaint or like a lawsuit or something, because they didn't uphold their end of the bargain.
Yeah.
Since I was supposed to be a trainee. Yeah. Nobody was training me.
Nobody was training you. So they set you up to fail.
Yeah. So I took the resignation. I resigned instead of taking the termination. So I just said, all right, I'll just resign then, so I don't have that on my file. And that led me to after school tutoring, which led me to long-term substitute work. Well, daily substitute, then long-term substitute work. Then I was teaching. Then I got into a classroom in North Philly as a long-term substitute. This is 2005, like spring of 05.
Serious. This is the front line now. We're talking about front line work. This is no joke. North Philly on the front line.
I was in Kensington too. I was in Kensington and Lehigh. That's where I was at. That's where the school was at.
Okay.
Yeah, so the
Kensington rough area. Is that a rough area?
Yeah, it's a little rough. Yeah, a little rough. Heavy heroin market. Okay. Open air drug market. You know, back then, just like today. You know, but yeah, I was there teaching 10th grade geometry. You know, for the 4th quarter, one of the teachers like went on leave, I think medical leave. So they just needed a geometry teacher for the 10th grade. So that was my first actual like long-term teaching position. And then I ended up staying at that school and teaching summer school. And then the following school year, I sent my resume out to a bunch of schools, and one school hired me. You know, I got hired at the school in South Philly. That's when I started teaching. But even at that point, I didn't have a love for math, and it wasn't really my purpose. At that point, I was just it was a job. I needed it was an economic necessity.
Okay.
You know, and I knew it was something that I could do. I knew there was a demand, there was a need for teachers.
And what was it like being a black man in those spaces in that time? Because there's not a lot of black male teachers, masculine males in the school. What was that like?
So I realized early on that a lot of, especially the young brothers, they didn't look at me only as a math teacher. They looked at me like as a role model. Like they identified me as their role model. And I recognized that. And then I realized that was not something to take lightly. Yeah. So that was one of the things that motivated me to start reading. So like earlier, you notice I was like dropping like book titles and whatnot. I realized that these young brothers was coming to me like asking me questions about things, just about life in general. And I'm like, well, I'm like in my mid 20s, and I'm like 25, right? And I'm like, okay, like I hope that, and I'm hoping I'm giving you the right answer. So I'm like, well, let me start reading. I got to start reading and studying. I need to get smarter.
You
know what I mean?
So that's when that Pan-African root started to kick in, and started to lean on that was those seeds that were planted by your parents.
Yeah, all the way back from 1980.
Yes.
You know. So so that's when that's how that was, and it was a great experience, and I learned a lot. You know, I say this often. I learned a lot from my students. I learned how to teach from my students, from their like different learning styles, and you know the questions that they ask, and you know I learned a lot about myself. You know, at that school and then the subsequent schools that I taught at, and you know just engaging and also being like a part of the community. You know, trying to be a part of the community and whatnot, you know, because that's really like education is more about, it's more than just, of course, just like coming in, being in the building from like 7:30 till 3 p.m., teaching your lessons and then leaving and then not coming back till the next day. Like you're really a part of the community, because the school really should be a part of the community. The school really should be like a hub of the community. And as the teacher or administrator, you really are part of the community. So I learned that from being in the classroom, you know.
Okay.
So that's how that went. And even then, like I appreciated math, but I didn't know math as intimately as I needed to. Okay. And so that's when my career starts in 2005. I'm just thinking like, oh, well, you know, I was good at math in high school, and then I went to college and I was good at using math in my college courses, but I came from an era, you may be similar in this way, where we were taught algorithms and procedures, but not as much in terms of the concept. I didn't have a conceptual understanding.
No concept at all. No concept.
Yeah. So that's when I fell in love with the math. That's probably like, let me see, like around 2020 is when I fell in love with math, just 5 years ago.
Okay.
I liked it, but I didn't love it until I learned. So to all the parents that are listening to this, I want to make this clear. I want to unequivocally say this. If you're a parent and you get frustrated when your child comes home with homework and they ask you for help and you want to be a good parent and you want to help them with their homework, and then you start showing it to them the way that we learned it 30 years ago, going straight to the algorithm or this method that we learned, there's nothing wrong with the methods that we use to do the math and the way we learned it. But the teachers nowadays are charged with teaching a conceptual understanding of it and different methods. So embrace those methods. So I'm gonna say, don't get upset with your children when they tell you, but dad or but mom, my teacher don't want me to do it that way. Don't get upset. And don't say it doesn't matter. You're gonna get the right answer. It actually does matter, because the teacher is testing and trying to assess your child in terms of whether they can do it in this particular way.
Yeah.
So that's what they're asking, which is actually setting them up and preparing them for higher level mathematics. Like we think about
I
like,
gave up. I gave up. I'm going to be honest. They came with this new math. I gave up. I'm going to be honest with my audience. My youths used to come with the math, and they had all these different tactics, and I'm here trying to cross out and put up. You know what I mean?
Because you got to be taught. You got to learn that.
Exactly.
I was fortunate, so I was in a privileged position, right? I started teaching. I had an opportunity to teach at LaSalle University in 2018. In 2017, I was on a panel. I got invited to be a panelist on a conversation about education in the Black community or something of that nature. Okay. And there was a new department chair in the education department. And I said some things that some of the more conservative or liberal white people thought were radical. So, and she appreciated this new department chair appreciated some of the things I said. It made some people that are uncomfortable, but I mean, hey, shit happens. Excuse my language. But anyway, she invited me to become a part of the department, the education department. So I started teaching math methods courses at LaSalle. Okay. The year after that, in 2019, I had the opportunity to start teaching at Cheney University, HBCU. Officially the first HBCU, but Lincoln claims they're the first because they were the first to give the college degrees, when Cheney was only technically a high school back in 1837, when it was the Institute for Colored Youth in South Philly.
Serious.
But I stay out of that. That's like friendly beef between them. Lincoln. I mean, I have a degree from Lincoln.
And for the Pan-Africans, hold on one second. For the Pan-Africans, Lincoln is where Kwame Nkrumah, Dr. Sajifo, went and where he got a lot of his consciousness when he was in America. So
and the brother Nnamdi Ezekwe.
Nnamdi Ezekwe from Nigeria. Yeah. So we're getting a history lesson here as well. Continue.
Yeah. So like I said, that's friendly like HBCU beef that I stay out of because my master's degree is from Lincoln, but my it's all about undergrad. Yeah, undergrad is really what you're more loyal to. So I went to Morgan. I graduated from Morgan. But
I'm HU all the way through. Is
that the real HU?
Yeah, the real HU.
Real HU, okay.
And we love all the people from the institute. You know what I mean? Because you grow and then you become a university one day. So we love, you know what I mean? The little brother over there. And actually, it's funny because my daughter wants to go to Hampton, so I'm having some problems here. She just got accepted to Howard. So it's going to be a rough few months coming up. That's another story. But continue.
So I had the opportunity to teach at Cheney, also teaching math methods. And so I'm privileged because, like many people, I didn't like the new math, right? Because it was the so-called new math, or the common core math, more appropriately termed, the common core math, right? Because it was different. And I didn't see the point, especially having been a high school math teacher, where Common Core doesn't really hit on a high school level. It hits on the elementary level and the middle school level, definitely, but it doesn't really hit on the high school level. High school has changed the least out of all the levels of education, all the grade bands, right, from K through 12. High school probably varied the least, but I had to learn it because I had to teach it to these education majors that were aspiring educators. But once I learned, at first it was rough, like with anything. Like when you start anything, it was like, it's going to be hard at first. But when I started to get the hang of it, I was like, man, like I wish I had learned this like 30 years ago, man, because it really, things started to make sense.
Yeah.
Those algorithms that we memorized back in the day.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's why that works. It's like, then I started seeing connections to the algebra that I've been teaching, all those algebra 1 topics I taught, and the algebra 2 topics, and the pre-calculus topics, the statistics topics, because that's the foundation. And then I was like, and then I'll be sitting there like, man, like I wish I'd have known this when I was trying to, because I remember like these moments when these students I had didn't understand, and I wish I had a better way to explain it, but I didn't know it on a deep enough level to explain it better. So I was like, but I started learning. So this is like my commercial for new math. Like whenever I talk on a podcast, a radio program, in public, at one of the workshops that I do, I'm advertising the Common Core math because it helps us to gain a better understanding of math. And you can like this how I got that was when I developed my love for math, when I started to really see the beauty in it. Because
Yes.
you might not, because you don't, when you only focus on the algorithms, you're very focused on just getting to the answer. The problem with that is, I mean, and it's a societal thing, because we live in a capitalist society. We live in a society where it's all about just get to the money, get the maximum output with the minimum input, right? Just get the most you can get, putting forth the least amount of effort. So a lot of people, and it happens in education too, we get trained to think like, well, I just want to get the answer. I don't care about why it works. I don't care about none of that. And then the school is modeled after that too, because students may need 2 weeks to really understand a topic, but because of the demands and the constraints of standardized testing and what's going to be on the standardized test, then it's like, well, you need 2 weeks, but so what? We only got 1 week to practice this. So you got to get it in 1 week. And then if you don't get it in 1 week, then we go on to the next topic. And then it's like, but wait, this is cumulative. So the next topic is it's very likely I'm not going to understand that either, because I didn't understand the last topic because I didn't have enough time. So it just becomes, this setup for failure.
Compounded.
Right? Well, failure for the children, but not failure for the system, because the system needs, in order for this system we live in to maintain itself, it needs people that are mathematically illiterate. Because those people that are mathematically illiterate will not make waves. They will not question anything. They will not challenge authority. They will not challenge the status quo, because they won't know how. They won't know how to ask the right questions. They won't know how to speak up for themselves. They won't necessarily know when they're being taken advantage of. And they'll be complicit in their own oppression because they don't know how to think mathematically and even recognize, wait, this person, this entity, this corporation, this government entity is actually not my friend. They're actually harming me by what they're doing. If you don't know how to think mathematically, you won't be able to do that. So it's actually, so when people say school systems are failing, they have to question that. They have to ask, okay, failing for whom? Because it may be failing for the children, maybe failing the children, but it's benefiting somebody. Because when we think about it, like the same issues that we have in the schools were present when I was, a child. When I was living in New York and from 1980 to 1987. So you would think that if it was really a problem, the problem would have been solved by now. But the fact that it has not been solved indicates what to us? If we look at things mathematically, it indicates that it's actually not a problem, because entities like this country has access to trillions of dollars, literally. If they wanted to solve the problem, they would just throw money at it and actually solve and actually a plan that would be meant to actually solve the problem. But the fact that they haven't solved the problem tells us that it's actually not a problem. But they just have to make it seem like it is a problem.
Yeah, one of the things that really stuck out to me is that they determine how many prisons that they build based on fourth grade reading and math scores. You know what I mean? So they know directly there's a correlation between how young people are performing to their chances of engaging in criminality. And one of the things I said in my most recent interview, and I've said it before and I never knew TV, is that anybody who's still in the streets right now is a victim, because they didn't study to understand that they're really in a trap. They're really in like a mouse trap. Just they're prey for a system. They're a raw flesh for the grinder of the prison industrial complex. You know what I mean? Once you're in the street, and there's a whole movement right now, the streets are dead.
Right.
Young rapper 21 Savage just dropped a project. It's creating a whole debate online on the internet about the streets. We can touch on that, but the tide is turning. You know what I mean? But the thing I love, before we get into our topic, the thing that I love is that you found your purpose late in life, relatively. So for young brethren, I preach that it's never too late, because a lot of us don't pursue purpose because we're afraid of failure, or we're locked into we're just working, we're surviving, we're putting food on the table, but we're not really living. You know what I mean? We're not living in our purpose. We're not doing something that lights up our lamp internally every day, that knows that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So I love the fact that 2020 was that turning point, where that light bulb went off for you, because it spawned a business. We're going to get into your business. It spawned a whole kind of ecosystem. This brethren has a YouTube channel. We want everyone watching to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're going to get into it. If you're just joining us, we have Akil Parker, renowned mathematician, Pan-African. He's cut from the cloth. He knows his history, his roots, and he's a mathematician. We're gonna ask him about Kemet, which was so mathematically inclined. You know what I mean? How you feel about that? But right now, we're getting ready to go into our topic. Let us know where you're watching from. If you're watching live, big up all the Lion Pride. Make sure you drop a super chat. We got the super chat button on top of the comment section. Ras Roots, always kick us off with the super chat. Big up yourself, Ras Roots. He's welcoming Akil Professor Parker. You know what I mean? So that's the Lion Pride. We have manners around here. We're going to welcome our guests nicely. All right. So what I want to know from the eye right now is Africa is rising. You know what I mean? The Western colonial system is collapsing in front of our eyes. We're going into a recession. Some people say the recession already started. Hyperinflation is a very strong possibility. And, I see my brother Junior the Ballhead on I Never Knew TV post an interview with you saying that math is the key to Black liberation. And, my eyes perked up because that's what we deal with over here, is the liberation talk. So how is mathematics related to Black liberation?
All right. So I love talking about this. First and foremost, I want to say that, right? I really enjoy talking about this because I think that myself and many of us, we don't have a complete definition of what mathematics actually is and what it can do for us. Because oftentimes our school experience exposes us to mathematics as just an abstract subject and essentially a necessary evil and just a means to an end. Like, it's just this class I got to take. I don't really know how I'm going to use it in life outside of school. I don't know if I can use it in life outside of school. My teacher didn't tell me, didn't show me how, this is applicable to my lived experiences outside of this classroom. So I'm going to just assume that it can't be used, right? But I got to take the class because I need to pass this grade and go into the next grade, and the next grade until I get my high school diploma or until I get my college degree or whatever I'm trying to achieve. But what happens is if you actually tap in to the math and focus in while you're practicing mathematics, you're developing critical thinking ability, right? You're developing analytical reasoning ability. And you're also developing problem solving ability, which is these are just skills that every responsible human being needs to have. So that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons that math is important, because you need those skills. It's similar to an athlete, right? An athlete that when they're practicing, they may do calisthenics, they may do weight training, they may do drills, whether you're a basketball player, football player, baseball player, soccer player, whatever, right? But on the field, you may not actually run those drills. You may not actually drop and do push-ups, but yet doing those push-ups makes you stronger, so you'll have more stamina and more strength for when you're actually playing the game. And in this case, we're talking about the game of life.
Yeah.
So what mathematics and the practice of mathematics enables us to do is be more prepared for life, because we'll know how to think. So many people, young people and adults alike, don't know how to think. Don't know how to, not only do they not know how to solve problems, but don't even know how to identify problems.
True.
This is why we may find ourselves in spaces and situations where if you're a very perceptive person, you may recognize a problem, but then you may look around and you see everybody else just laughing and giggling, joking, you know what I'm saying? But, and you thinking to yourself like, oh, y'all don't see what's about to happen? Y'all don't see what's going on, right? Like you might be in an unsafe space. You might be in a space where like somebody's about to get robbed or like somebody's about to start shooting or you know, but due to your critical thinking ability and your ability to analyze the situation and analyze behaviors and recognize patterns, you see that it's about to be a problem. But other people don't see it because they don't have your critical thinking ability. They don't have your analytical reasoning ability. And what I'm trying to impress upon people is that practicing mathematics helps you to develop those skills. And those are life skills, you know? So that's one of the main reasons that math is important. Another reason in this society, we live in a competitive capitalist society where there are limited job opportunities, limited career opportunities. And it's a hierarchical system where the higher paying jobs and the more exclusive jobs are limited. And the criteria that you have to meet in order to qualify is educational attainment. So mathematics is a gatekeeper for these opportunities. More specifically, Algebra 1 is the gatekeeper to so many things. So we have to be careful when we hear young people say things like, I'm never going to use this in life, referring to a math class, or this is too hard, this is too difficult, I don't like it. What they're actually saying, ostensibly, is this. They're also saying, I'm never going to be an engineer. I'm never going to be a doctor. I'm never going to be a scientist. I'm never going to be a computer scientist. I'm never going to be an architect. I'm probably never going to be a businessman, because all of those fields require strength in mathematics. But of course, that's fine for the powers that be, because this is a competitive society. So one of the ways that certain groups can win is by getting a competition to disqualify themselves from competition.
Yes.
So if the and then I can so and here's the game, and this is something that Amos Wilson talked about. The challenge for the power structure is this: is how do I maintain the status quo, right? This racist system, oppressive system, exploitative system, inequitable system. How do I maintain it, but while giving the impression that I actually don't want it to be like that? So what you can do is you can say, okay, well, we'll give you access to the education, but we won't properly train the teachers in how to teach you so you can actually learn. Or we'll also maintain a mainstream media that will devalue intellectualism.
Yes.
That will make you feel like you shouldn't embrace mathematics.
We'll fund gangster rap for you.
Exactly. If there was a radio station that played commercials or recruited the same rappers to write rhymes about all the different formulas we use in trigonometry and geometry and all the different methods of doing arithmetic, right, that we can use to solve math problems, we would learn math very easily.
We need more of the jizza. Jizza doing some great stuff with hip hop.
But the fact that we don't have that, and there are people in positions that could create that, right? And I'm talking about not even necessarily wealthy individuals, but I'm at this point I'm talking about like corporations and government entities. If they wanted that to be the outcome, then they would have done that already. The fact that they haven't done it indicates they don't want to do it because they know what the outcome is going to be.
Exactly.
So this is what we have to understand. We have to understand that mathematical illiteracy is beneficial for the society as we know it. So, but that puts the responsibility on us to say, okay, what are we going to do in response? Because we can't rely on them. And actually, not only can we not rely on them, because it's not like Richard Nixon in the 1970s and benign neglect.
Yes.
It's malignant neglect. It's active there's a proactive effort to stop people from learning mathematics.
Explain the concept of benign neglect. We got an international audience. We have brethren from Zambia who tune in, brethren from all over who are going to watch this on the replay. Explain when you talk about President Nixon, who was famous for the war on drugs, which was a war on black people, and the anti-war movement. Explain when you talk about the policy of benign neglect.
So benign neglect means you just basically leave things to, like, you don't intervene at all. You know things are going to deteriorate, conditions are going to deteriorate and gradually get worse and worse, and you don't intervene at all. There's no intervention, and you just neglect the situation, and you're going to benefit from it being from the reduction in viability of the system and of the people, right? So that's my understanding of benign neglect. I'm sure there's a more like
that's beautiful
definition.
That's beautiful, and it leads because these dilapidated neighborhoods, and how I knew it was a scam. I moved to DC in 1996, and then from about maybe I think about 2000 to going up, gentrification hit the city, and I saw how fast a neighborhood could transform from a slum to luxury. So I said, okay, this whole thing is a scam. These dilapidated inner cities, because if private enterprise can come in and clean up, and government have hundreds of millions of dollars in their budget, you telling me that they can't clean up these communities is a joke. And the other thing about it is that remember that the private prisons, that's employment for the small towns in America, the non-black. So we get to house these people in private prisons. The private prisons now are going to start producing products. So we have cheap labor for a series of industry. So that's why I say that people who are on the streets and pushing that street culture was very convenient, because they're now financing the PR machine. I had a song I did called "They Just Advertise for the Private Prisons." You know what I mean? We're talking about the hip hop. This was a marketing scheme for gangster rap, to be a gangster, to go in the street, to sell drugs, narcotics, and to get caught up in the system. If you read any indictment, I always say this: if you ever read an indictment, you would never get into the streets, because you would see how long the cops are monitoring, how they know everybody on all the blocks. They have confidential informants all through. So if any sound person who did their due diligence and looked at an indictment in the industry that they're getting involved with, would see that the streets is a scam. So
that's logic. That's
exactly.
That's logic. And if I could tie that to mathematics,
yeah.
So a lot of people, young people, when they're in 10th grade, traditionally in 10th grade, you'll take geometry. If you're fortunate, you get exposed to geometry in middle school. If you're fortunate, that's important too, because you may not get exposed to it. Many students don't get exposed to geometry or algebra 1 in middle school, which they should. Or I would say even earlier, even at elementary level, they're prepared for it. But at any rate, I bring up logic because geometry is really about logic. Well, that's one of the aspects of geometry. Geometry teaches you how to think logically. Okay. A lot of us get caught up in the superficial aspects of the shapes, and people will say, especially young people, say, "Well, what do I care about how big this angle is or whatever? I don't want to be an interior decorator, and I don't want to be an architect. So why should I care about this?" Well, the shapes are just it's like athletes doing exercise. It's like athletes running drills. It's meant to prepare you for the actual game. So when you're doing proofs or solving proofs, or you're trying to prove that this angle is a right angle, and then you're given some information, you're practicing the skill of taking some information that is factual and using it to arrive at a conclusion, right? A sound conclusion based on facts. Yeah. If you do not know how to do that, and that is a skill, right? If you never develop that skill, you end up being a person that is overly reliant on just their feelings and how they feel. And your feelings cannot always be trusted, because your feelings may be dependent upon your mood. Yeah. So on a Monday, you might feel a certain way about something. So therefore, that's going to affect your position on it. But then on Tuesday, you feel a different way about it. So now you have a different position on it. But then what if you're a person that has responsibility to a family or responsibility to a community, and then and the expectation would be that you would be a consistent person, but then you can't be a consistent person because you're led totally and completely by your feelings. The geometry teaches you
a lot of our young black males today who didn't grow up with fathers, very emotional. Continue.
Overly emotional. So what geometry can do is teach you how to say, okay, this is a fact, right? This is a fact. We can all agree that this is a fact. This is given, whatever it may be, right? How can I take this fact and then arrive at other conclusions based upon this fact? And then what other facts can I use that are related to this first fact that I know in order to arrive at a conclusion that we can all trust and agree upon as intelligent individuals? Instead of it end up being a situation where, you know what is it? Nietzsche talked about will to power, where it's like there is no right or wrong, there is no good or evil. There's just those in power. Whatever they do is seen as good, and those that do not have power.
Hold on, stick up in. He's talking about Nietzsche, which is a German philosopher. You got to look him up. A lot of European colonial thought come out of these philosophers, and a lot of their ways that to the African would seem very psychotic or sick, are justified through this lens. And Nietzsche is one of the, he's on the Mount Rushmore of European philosophy. So I just want to break it down again. We have an international audience, and then also a lot of young people who didn't get to go to university, such as Morgan and Morehouse, like your pedigree, But he's cut from the Pan-African cloth family. He's going in. Keep going.
And I need to study Nietzsche more. So I've a very cursory. I'll tell you a cursory review of Nietzsche, but I came across that one idea which makes sense because it studying the Europeans will help us to understand European society and like the way they move and the way they operate. Like I used to be an advocate of not studying them when I was younger, but then I realized, I said, man, we got to study them because they'll even their cultural products, like their fiction and their movies, because they're very instructive in terms of what they value and what they care about. The books like Beowulf and all that, stuff like that. It's like, because if these are your heroes, function, like think about Zeus, Greek mythology, great example. It's well known. It's no mystery, or it's not hidden that Zeus was a rapist. Like this is the king of their gods. So what do you expect?
Gods.
So how do you expect them that? So it makes perfect sense. So you talking about Donald Trump talking about grabbing women by the vagina, and he's never going to be held accountable for that. So we shouldn't even expect that. Right, at least
the whole Epstein scandal that's happening right now, that's being covered up, that goes to the highest echelons of power.
All that, and that's logic. So we're applying logic to realize, okay, well, if these are their heroes, this is what Zeus did, or Jupiter, like what the Greeks called him Zeus, the Romans called him Jupiter. If this is who they honor, this is who they look up to, then how do you think the people in real life that walk and breathe today what they're going to be allowed to do? So I realized some time ago, we got to study them too, because that is but not study them for the purpose of trying, because a lot of us, we fall into the trap. We want to study them so that we can emulate them and assimilate into and be like an honorary, Nathan Hare talked about the hold on a second.
All right. I love it. It's going for the books, family.
The Black Anglo-Saxons, because a lot of us we try to study. Okay. We try to study the European so we can become an honorary European. But that, I know I'm all over the place, but that just reminded me of something.
Man after my own heart. I'm the reading Ras. So I love when the man pull out his books. I love it.
So this idea reminds me of something that also relates to mathematics. We want our children to do well in mathematics. We don't want them to fail in math. We don't want them to be intimidated by math. However, there has to be a cultural component to it, because if a lot of us have children that are black and that excel in mathematics, but devoid of a proper political and cultural orientation, they become weaponized. They, with those skills, become weaponized against the black community. That's how you end up with these brilliant black people that end up with PhDs in physics and chemistry and mathematics and, high level degrees, but then they're content with and see no contradiction in working jobs and doing certain work that is going to directly harm black people, directly harm African countries, directly harm Caribbean nations. They see no contradiction, because all of their lives they have been trained, they've been given the math, they've been given the science, right? But they haven't been given the proper cultural orientation and the political education, so that they'll realize that they should be using those skills to help them empower their own people. And then somebody comes along with an opportunity. Okay, you know what? The CIA wants to hire you. FBI wants to hire you. The federal United States government wants to hire you to work with AFRICOM, and you're going to create the algorithms that they're going to use for these drones that they're going to use to drop bombs in African countries. And you see no problem with that.
The first FBI agent was hired to go against Marcus Garvey. You know what I mean? The very first. So what you're saying has a lot of authority. Barack Obama spearheaded the invasion of Libya, destroyed Muammar Gaddafi, who was trying to create an African-based currency based on gold, doing what is happening in the AES right now. So what he's saying, family, it has very much relevance, and I love how you're weaving in the mathematics and the logic, because without these things, it's not going to work. And you said a key thing: when a young person says they don't want to do algebra 1, they're saying I don't want to be an engineer, or architect. There's so many fields that relate to building. We need our own satellites. We need our own servers. These are things that, if we want to compete as black people internationally, we can't depend on Elon Musk, who don't love I&I. I mean, even these platforms that we're on, like YouTube, deprioritize conscious black content, and the algorithm is in tune. And we're going to talk about algorithm and what an algorithm, because that's mathematics. You heard him talking about algorithms in the back, and now everything is run off of algorithm. So, and the algorithm prioritizes controversy, so if you're up here talking about the diaspora wars and I don't like this person and all of that, you're going to get a lot of hits, a lot of visibility, because the algorithm is looking for conflict, through engagement and these things. So we have to be very conscious. Mathematics is all around us more than ever in this digital world. So continue in terms of math and black liberation.
Yeah, so one of the things too is something I wanted to comment on about something you said earlier was, why this equation that we often see in Algebra 1, y equals mx plus b. So we were talking about and that basically it's about cause and effect, or input versus output, consequences. So we have young people that aren't taught to consider consequences, or how to recognize consequences, or try to plan for consequences to essentially mitigate risk, or because there's always going to be risk, but there are ways that you can minimize risk or mitigate risk. That's what that equation is about. And a lot of people kind of joke and say, I'm never going to use this equation, or there are adults to say that they never have used the equation outside of school. Well, I would argue that no, you have, or if you haven't, then that just shows that you have not you've not been able to analyze and properly forecast, your life outcomes, right? Because the x and y equals mx plus b is the input, right? That's the thing that's happening. So you might say, okay, well, drugs are put into the community, right? And then rappers are also paid as straw men, basically, to celebrate this lifestyle of being a drug dealer, right? What is the outcome going to be? That's the y variable. We know what the outcome is going to be. They're going to be, more people incarcerated, right? For thinking that That's the only route that they can go to be a man, so to speak, or to generate income, so to speak. That's the outcome. And there are people that benefit from that, like the people that own the private prisons. They hire mathematicians to do forecasting. They hire economists. Okay, how many people do we need locked up? Okay, and this is where the engineering comes into play. They reverse engineer it. They say, okay, I want to build a prison this large. It's got this many cells, this many beds. I know the state is going to subsidize it. Or the federal government and or the state government is going to subsidize it. I need this much money. Okay, so how many? Basically, it's like a hotel. How many people do I need? How many people do I need to be in there? Okay, I need 10,000. Okay, all right. So what are we going to do to get 10,000 prisoners? What are we going to do? We got to change the law, or we got to make criminality more inviting, right? And this also ties into like test scores and the comment I made earlier about there not being actually failing schools, or if schools are failing, we have to ask the more specific question: is who are they failing? Are they failing those that are running the schools and running the society, or are they failing the youth that are in the schools, right? Because when I look at test scores, like I do a lot of work with like schools in Baltimore and schools in Philly. When I go online and I do research on the standardized testing results, especially for mathematics, and I see, okay, in this particular school, in this neighborhood, less than 5% of the students are proficient in mathematics in this grade. Okay. All right. So to me, okay, that's a problem. I know I got work to do. I want to help this school. I want to bring that number up. But to many people, corporations, government entities that are trying to make money in the current system formation, they see that as, oh, well, if less than 5% are proficient in math, then that means more than 95% are not proficient at math. That 95% block is beneficial. That's an economic unit, because you know why? Because it's very likely that the proper interventions that are needed for them to become proficient in most cases won't happen. In most cases, it's not going to happen. So then what's going to happen? Then you can make predictions, like you mentioned about the building the prisons, right? You mentioned that earlier, right? So we say, okay, well, 95% of them can't do math, and they in fourth grade, they in fifth grade, they in sixth grade. When they're 21, they probably still won't be able to do math.
No.
So what else are they going to be doing? They're going to be on the street somewhere. Because they're going to think that that's the only thing they can do. Or they're going to be doing some low-level menial labor, right? Crime is going to be very inviting, very enticing, and very inviting. And also lacking the critical thinking ability and the analytical reasoning ability, it's going to be almost impossible for them to not get caught doing something illegal or some criminal activity. So therefore, there are many people that are looking at those standardized test results saying, okay, this is great. They're salivating just at the idea, looking at that data. Like, okay, yeah, we got a constant stream of, we're going to have prisoners. We're going to have people to do menial labor. Also, we're going to have unemployed people. So when you think about like capitalism and the surplus value equation, or, the idea of how having a army of surplus workers, unemployed, actually keeps wages down. And a lot of people don't understand this. So let me talk about this very briefly. This is another math concept. If I own a company, right, and I'm a typical corporation in America or transnational, right, in the world, I'm only concerned about profit. I don't care about humanity, no matter what my PR team puts together to make it look like I do. I don't really care about humanity. I care about profit. I care about shareholder
value,
shareholder value, whatever that's supposed to mean, right? If I'm unfair to my workers, I got some workers that are making $15 an hour, but they really probably should be making $25, $30 an hour. So somebody among the workers gets together and says, you know what, we should go on strike. We should challenge this guy. This guy should pay us $30 an hour. 15 is not enough. It's not a livable wage. We can barely afford, we still need food stamps while we're working here full time. That's ridiculous. Okay. The owner of the company says, you know what? How about this? How about I just fire all of y'all, and these people outside that's unemployed, they make $0 an hour right now. I'll bring them in and only pay them $10 an hour. So how about that? How about I fire all of y'all? I bring in some new people. Now I'm only paying them $10. They're gonna do the same work as y'all anyway. So I'm actually gonna save money by y'all speaking up and saying something. But in a society where the unemployment, those people that are unemployed, they help the owners be able to maintain a low wage.
Mm-hmm.
This is all mathematical. And these are the things that they don't want us to be thinking about. And if you think mathematically, then you can ask better questions. You become a troublemaker. Just naturally. Because that's what we do when we're solving math problems. When we're solving math problems, like even when you read a word problem, you're trying to solve the problem, but you might be thinking like, well, is this even a valid question?
Yes.
Why is it being worded? Why is it even worded like this? Like sometimes when I'm doing tutoring with students and they give me their home and they show me their homework, they may email it to me or text it, or if we're working in person, I may read the question and I'm also thinking, I'm scanning and I'm analyzing, and I'm also thinking like, this is not even a valid question. Like, why would they ask this? Why did they word this way?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm looking at everything through a mathematical lens. There's a filter. There's a mathematical filter there, right? Those people are problematic. So that's why the society tries to keep those people to
limit those people. How I knew that Babylon was gone is when I hear that America was in debt 37 trillion. Explain to people how big $1 trillion is, because we hear the word trillion, and I don't think people understand how large this is. Like fantasy world we getting into when we start talking about trillion. How much is $1 trillion?
$1 trillion is, so now we talk about place value, which is very important.
Yes.
These are fundamentals that a lot of people skip over at the early levels. $1 trillion is imagine $1 billion, but then let me get back up. Imagine $1 million. 1,000 times is $1 billion. So imagine $1 million 1,000 times, right? So, and I did this calculation. If somebody had $1 billion, let's think about money. Somebody had $1 billion. I'm trying to think of what it was.
Yeah.
If somebody had to spend $1 billion, take 1 billion and divide it by 365, and I calculated how much money they have to spend on a daily basis. It's something like $2.9 million a day.
Wow.
Let me make sure. I'm throwing it in my calculator right now.
All right. We're doing math right now, family. This is exclusive Lion Voice. We have the mathematician on the platform. If you're watching, let us know where you're calling from. We're breaking down the money right now.
Right. So we got to again, reverse engineering is what we're doing, right? So $1 billion, we're talking about dollars, like $1 billion, we had to spend $1 billion, right?
Yeah.
Like that old Richard Pryor movie, he had to spend 30 million.
Yeah.
Right. But now we're saying if you had to spend $1 billion in a year, and this don't even include capital gains.
Yes.
Interest on investments.
Yeah, this is the raw billion.
Yeah, just the raw billion, the principal. That's you'd have to spend $2.7 million per day. $2,739,726.03 every day for a year. Most people will never make $2 million. A lot of people may not make $2 million in 10 or 20 years, right? But you'd have to spend that much per day.
That's a billion. Right? That's billion with a B.
Now, to give a perspective, $1 trillion is a billion times 1,000. It's a billion 1,000 times. That's how much a trillion is.
And that's the military budget for America right now for 2025, 26.
And this is also another thing about that. I mean, this is what Dr. King talked about when he came out against the Vietnam War, and it's claimed that this is what got him assassinated back in '67, because it was like as long as he was talking about things of a domestic nature, things were more safe. But it was Kwame Ture and them and the young people in SNCC that kind of challenged him and said, look, you're talking about nonviolence, being nonviolent in America. What about being nonviolent in Vietnam? And then King did the math and put two and two together and said, look, if we're starving and people are living in like rat-infested apartments in Chicago, because remember when King moved in the projects in Chicago at one point before he got assassinated. People are poor all over the country. But of course they're going to be poor because there are resources that this country could dedicate toward our collective well-being, but they're too busy trying to kill the Viet Cong and go over there and take over their land.
One of the key things that Haile Selassie, I don't know much you know about Emperor Haile Selassie, was one of the champions for disarmament, because the amount of money in global military spending that could be spent on uplifting humanity is astronomical. And I think, I love this reasoning because, we hear these numbers thrown around on TV, but I don't think people really grasp how massive the numbers that they're talking about. And think about what $1 billion could do to a community. Just 1 billion. If you have private enterprise coming in with a few million and investors and buying up blocks and revamping and gentrifying, think about if you had $1 billion worth of capital, what that could do. And I can tell you that $1 billion is being spent every day like nothing. I see you grabbing for books. Talk to me.
Yeah, so a couple things, right? So one of the things is, so you mentioned military spending.
Yeah.
So when we get into so if more of us understand military spending and how much money actually goes into that, then when the media gives us this whole, like, even when the media first came with this welfare queen trope,
yes,
right, to give the impression that, oh, well, that's why the country's in debt, because Keisha's getting the nails done and buying crab legs and lobster, right, with food stamps.
Yes.
Like, well, that's really why. Like, it's not because they're building B-2 bombers that cost like $5 billion just to make one of them.
Yeah.
Right. Not because of that, right? They don't want you thinking about that.
Yeah.
It helps you put everything in perspective, right?
Maddox.
But I also, Greg, you mentioned how a community could benefit from $1 billion. I'm trying to find. So I grabbed pulled Marcus Garvey off the shelf.
Okay, he grabbed the big gun. He grabbed the big gun off the shelf. He went for the Orkalan long gun.
Because he has a passage in here. So
all right.
About, not directly, it's about how we can navigate capitalism, right? Yes. And he talks about, I'm trying to find the passage. I can't find the passage. I want to find the exact passage, but he basically says, where does it sit? Okay, here we go. Page 72. Capitalism and the state. The brother says, capitalism is necessary to the progress of the world. Perhaps if he'd have lived longer, he might have amended that. But this is where he was. And those who unreasonably and wantonly oppose to fight against it are enemies of human advancement. But there should be a limit to the individual or corporate use or control of it. No individual should be allowed the possession, use, or the privilege to invest on his own account more than $1 million. And no corporation should be allowed to control more than 5 millions. Beyond this, all control, use, and investment of money should be the prerogative of the state with the concurrent authority of the people. Now, when he said the state, I'm sure he wasn't talking about the United States government. Yes. Talking about, like, black people, a nation, our sovereign. United States of Africa, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, that just puts things in perspective, because it's like then we wouldn't celebrate even a black billionaire or a black person with $100 million, because that would never happen, because they would say, okay, sure, have your million. And of course, this is like what, for what year? Like, this is from
$1 million. $1 million in that time is probably like 100 million today.
Yeah. This is
because $1 million, the dollar has lost significant value.
Yeah. Okay. This is first published in 1923, second published in 1925. So let's say 1925, we adjusted for inflation. Yeah. Right. And even that's a nice piece of change, but there's no need to have $100 million, no need to have $1 billion. Yeah. So we don't need to be like Jay-Z and say, what's better than one black billion? What's better than one black billionaire too? Like, we don't need to buy into that, because like, you don't need that. No one person or one family needs that much money.
That's actually shameful, because there's no institutions that these black billionaires own. So it's actually kind of shameful when they're talking about all these black billionaires and we don't have top of the line schools and health centers, and that infrastructure is not there. Even entertainment, we don't have black owned companies, and we are the major producers of the raw material for the creative industry. And we don't have our own entities, or when we do, we sell them off, once they get to a level. So what you're saying is so key. And again, this is a mathematical way of thinking. Even the whole concept of crowdfunding, because I tell my audience, I have 58,000 people, and I say if we could get everyone to give my guest $10 and support that, we could be moving over $500,000 every Wednesday. That's my vision for this channel. That when we put up your site, that 50,000 people would go to the platform and support. You know what I mean? Because that's how we're going to capitalize the Pan African movement. I think that we're in the best time ever to be alive, to be honest, because of the tools and the technology. And it's the best time for us to mobilize capital to really get things done, because in Marcus Garvey time, it was illegal, to move capital certain ways. And they used some of that to cause his downfall. But right now with crowdfunding, you can do a lot of things legally. And there's a clear paper trail, and mechanisms where we could be building our own school. Unfortunately, like Dr. Umar, who is up in your neck of the woods, should be able to build that school very simply. If I ever get a chance to talk to him, I'll tell him he can't do it alone. But he should to build that school just by aggregating the capital. We have too many black people. If we had 1 million people put up $10, what can't we do? So it's just, but not understanding mathematics, because other communities do this. What we're talking about, using capital to build the community. That crowdfunding concept is an ancient concept. It's not nothing new. It's just the technology. So all of that, you have to think mathematically. So I'm just supporting you, but continue, because you're cooking over there.
So where was I at? So we was talking about
we're talking about just the uses of math and thinking logically. You were going into geometry, how geometry puts together logical thinking, how problem solving, identifying problems, coming up with solution is a mathematical framework. But continue.
Right, because I want us to expand our horizons and expand our definition of just what math is fundamentally. Because I think oftentimes there's a disconnect, and this is a consequence of Western educational styles, Western educational approaches, where oftentimes we compartmentalize everything. Everything is compartmentalized. Like, oh, this is math, so don't talk about this in a social science context, or there's math is the foundation of, I would say, everything, because everything can be quantified. Everything can be analyzed mathematically. Even the relationships between entities can be modeled as mathematical relationships, and we can use this to make predictions about what will happen. I mentioned y equals mx plus b earlier. If we can create an equation, and we also use y equals mx plus b in statistics, which is also very important. We can forecast what is going to happen, what the outcome will be. If we have a model and we say, okay, well, if I own a private prison or a private prison corporation, if we put this many rap songs that are pro drug dealing on the radio and on YouTube and on social media, how many do we need to put on, and how many resources do we need to extract from the communities so there aren't after school programs and there are less opportunities for young people, and that's going to lead to the outcome of a certain amount of prisoners, future potential prisoners, and and more money for us. Because this is, and again, like this is, I think also we have to understand who we're dealing with. Like as they would say, it's not personal, right? Because it's inhumane. It's inhumane. Like it's just like the slave trade. It's not about, okay, well, this is somebody's mom, that's somebody's dad, that's somebody's child, that's somebody's grandmother. Like there's a lack of humanity. The lack of humanity dictates that they don't care about none of that.
No,
it's all about money. Like you're not seen as a human being, you're seen as an economic unit. So I think a lot of us, we have to understand who we're dealing with. And that's why we can't make appeals to morality. We can't make appeals to morality. We have to understand who we're dealing with, and even that's a mathematical approach. You got to understand. Like it's about identifying the problem properly. Because when we identify certain problems and we try to solve them in certain ways, it's like, no, that's not a valid method. Because some methods, excuse me, won't work for certain types of problems.
Yes,
you may need a different method, right? You need a different method with this type of problem, right? It's like, that happens a lot throughout mathematics. And when I mention statistics, I want to also bring something up that affects a lot of us, conflating outliers with norms.
Yes.
Because oftentimes something we'll view that is an outlier.
That's the Obama effect, the Barack Obama effect.
Yeah, that's a good example. That's a good example because the outlier will be given a large platform and a lot of publicity, and then you start to believe that that's the norm, or as if that's what we should be doing, right? Or it could be something. It could be some type of negative, shiftless, and inappropriate behavior in the community, and then we start thinking, "Oh, that's just what Black people do." That's not what Black people do.
The Cardi B sexy red effect. That's the Cardi B sexy red stripper culture become the norm for the Black woman of the earth, Lana housewives, the ratchet culture where they reprogram a generation. Continue.
And then you start to, as a young person, you start to think, well, this is what I should be doing, since this looks like the norm. But if we looked at statistics, then we would start to question these things. We start to question, like, well, wait a minute, like, why, like, is this even the norm? Is this a measure of central tendency, as we call it? Is this the mean, the median? Does the average person really do this? Is this like
deadbeat Black father? And then when they did the math, that was not far from the truth. Black fathers were the most involved in their children's life. The whole narrative was concocted. Right. Continue.
But as long as we develop a fear of math early on, and it's a very social and emotional situation. As long as we develop a fear of math early on, then by the time we're adults, that fear will be so set in. I don't think it's not insurmountable, right? We can overcome it, right? But it's like with anything that was a fear or a phobia, you gotta be deprogrammed almost, right? By the time you're an adult. But if you set it in at an early age, it's harder to deprogram you when you're older. And then people that want to manipulate you, individuals that want to manipulate you, government entities, corporations that want to manipulate you, it's easier for them to do it because you're scared of math. So once you start talking numbers and percentages, they'll just shut down. Yeah. Because they'll think, oh, well, okay, whatever. And the person might lie to you right in your face. They're playing our faces. That's one of the things I'm very big on. Like one of the main benefits of learning math also is it prevents people from being able to play in your face without you knowing it. Because a lot of us, people play in our face and we don't even know it. So when the child says, what do I need to know this for? I'm never going to use this in life. That's what those that are in control want you to think. Because if you don't learn how to use it, one day you'll be in a situation where you're going to be lied to, whether it's through mainstream media, whether it's through, I don't know, some contract, something that you have to buy, some advertising, something that you're about to buy that doesn't really make sense, something that they're trying to tell you about yourself. They're going to conflate an outlier for a norm, and you're going to believe that it's a norm, and then that's going to affect your behavior and your outlook on life and your outlook on yourself. That's what they want you to do. They want you to never learn it, so that way you can be more easily manipulated. Because this has been happening. You know, it's like it's not accidental, right? It's not accidental at all. Like the math. This is why I say like math. This is why we talk about math being the key to liberation. Because it's not just about being able to solve an equation. It's being able to think in a mathematical way and in an algebraic way, and that like affects a lot of things. You know, being able to identify contradictions, be able to recognize them and notice them. You know, so it's like it's all these different types of things.
Yes.
And also like to be able to study history. Like you'll read history much differently. You know, history will seem different. I remember reading Osajifo, Kwame Nkrumah, one of his many books. He wrote many books, but one of them, Neo-Colonialism: The Last Stage of Imperialism.
Serious.
And it was like, to me, it was like a finance textbook that I wish I had read when I was an undergrad. But that's not the type of education that my institution, even though I love it, you know, I understand that HBCUs have their limitations because we know who keeps the lights on. We know where they get their funding from.
That's the problem.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's always been the case, right? But like I said, I still love them, but they're not perfect. But Nkrumah was breaking it down, you know, mathematically. He was quantifying how much each European nation stole from different African nations. Not just anecdotally stating, well, they came in and took this, they came in and took that, they stole these resources. No, he was saying, okay, this is how many tons of bauxite, how many tons of iron ore, how many tons of silver, how much gold. He was saying it like he had the data, right? Which changes the conversation. It makes it a very different conversation. But without mathematical aptitude, you can't have that conversation.
Can't have that conversation.
Then somebody that does have math aptitude can come along and play with you. They can play in your face. But which brings me to another point about asymmetrical warfare. Because many people will say, well, I don't need to know this. It's not going to help me. Well, even if you can see that, or if even I can see that, and I say, well, you know, I'm not going to argue with you that point. But I will pose this question. Do you ever think about the people that do know the mathematics? Like, what is it that the people that are learning calculus, what are they doing with that? And what are they going to be able to do that you won't be able to do? Because math is also a weapon. Like I said, math enables us to be able to develop critical thinking ability, analytical reasoning skills, problem solving skills. It enables us to compete for job opportunities and career opportunities, but it's also a weapon. So think of it that way. So when we talk about asymmetrical warfare, when you say, well, I don't need to learn this, I don't need to learn trigonometry, I'm not going to use it in life, I don't need to learn geometry, but then there are people that are learning it. You have to wonder, well, what are they doing with it? If they're learning it, why are they learning it? And
they're building algorithms.
Exactly. And what are they doing with the algorithms? They're working for companies like Meta, who owns Facebook and Instagram, that are creating algorithms that are going to become our timelines and are going to affect the things that we see. And a lot of people think that they like what they like because they like it. They don't realize that a lot of the things we like are things that we've been exposed to.
Yes.
And a person created a program that was going to expose us to something so that we would like it. Because a lot of times we don't like something until we get exposed to it. But that was a person.
You're bubbling. We say you're bubbling over here. You're bubbling.
So we got to think about, well, who does know it? If you don't want to know it, okay, cool. But what about the people that do know it? What are they doing with it? It's like so now what you're doing is you saying when you say, well, I don't want to know it. What's happening is you come into a gunfight with a pocket knife.
Can you launch a satellite without mathematics?
Impossible.
Okay.
That would be impossible.
Okay. That's what we're talking about right now. This is big people talk right now. You know,
yeah.
This is big man talk. You got to know the mathematics if you want to compete on the chessboard. We're almost at 10 o'clock. The time is flying, but I want to, before we seal up, I want to know from you some practical tools. And then I want you to tell the people about the work that you're doing. Lion Pride, don't embarrass me. We want to spend some money with this brother today. If you're watching this on the replay, you're watching live, go to the website, check out what this brother is doing. Let's spend some money. Let's show our gratitude. We might not need it, but we might have children that need that extra math
I see.
assistance. You
See the
might,
comment. Yeah.
you know what I mean. You might have somebody else who needs to who can benefit from these services. So I bring everybody I bring on this platform is strategic, and we're moving in a direction. And when we talk about self-determination, we can't talk about self-determination without mathematics. You know what I mean? And having knowledge of advanced mathematics and being comfortable. And part of our aversion to money and our acceptance of poverty is around the trauma or the wounds. Baba Wakesa said we don't use trauma, but the wounds that we have around mathematics that have not been healed. So we gotta start loving mathematics so we can deal with these money conversations. We can move capital, we can build what we gotta build, and we can start building an alternative to Babylon, because right now it's law of the jungle, Pirates of the Caribbean, all kind of thing going on right now. International law completely broken down, and the people who suffer when the laws break down are black people, poor people. Rich people can just move, you know what I mean, and go where things are stable. But we are the ones that feel the burden. The poor man feels the burden. So we can't afford. We don't have the luxury of not embracing mathematics. So I want you to give us some practical tools for those who are math challenged or math phobic, and then let us know how people can tap in with the powerful work. We'll explain the work that you're doing, and then let us know how people can tap in.
Yeah. So one of the things that I try to do is make math relevant, and I try to provide positive propaganda around math, because what educators realize is that, and people that are proficient in math, and some of you are proficient in math, but you just don't believe that you're proficient in math, and a lot of that is due to just negative propaganda. There's so much negative propaganda around mathematics, so that's the real work, is getting people to believe that math is relevant, getting people to see that it's relatable to their daily life and their daily existence, and getting people to believe in themselves enough and have enough self-confidence to believe that they can achieve in it. And especially as parents, you have an incentive, because your children are going to need to develop math skills. And one of the things I advocate for, especially for fathers, is the same way we want to protect our children, protect our sons, especially protect our daughters, because we have that certain type of relationship with our daughters. We don't want to see our children like sitting at the dining room table or the kitchen table like crying, because they don't understand some math homework. Mm-hmm. But in order for us to protect them from that type of emotional hurt that our children experience, we have to learn it. So that way we can explain it to them in a way that makes sense, in a way, and be patient with them and show it to them. But we got to learn it first. So many of us don't know it ourselves. So we got to learn it so we can protect them from that hurt and that kind of that those negative feelings around it. We want to protect our children from that. So a lot of it is just propaganda. This is a propaganda war. Because for all of our lives we've been propagandized to stay away from math. Mm-hmm. That's what they've told us in subtle ways and in many overt ways. Stay as far away from math as possible. It's not for black people. Black people don't do math. They might, reference, pyramids from ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet, but they say, but y'all don't do that no more. Or they might tell you that aliens built the pyramids. Might try to lie to you, tell you, well, y'all ain't even build them anyway. Or they might tell you the Egyptians weren't black. All these types of games, this is propaganda, right? To get us to stay away from the math. Or it gets into the other thing, like, well, yeah, so if you can do math, then you start to feel like you're a unicorn. Yes. Start to feel like, well, I'm not like the rest of y'all. Because black people don't really do math. So I'm different. So then you become weaponized against your community, or you can't serve your community. This is one of the things Carter G. Woodson talked about in the miseducation of the Negro. He talked about that. He said, a lot of us get formal education, and then we end up being useless to our community because we're alienated from our education has alienated us from our community. So many times we have brilliant black children, boys and girls, that excel in mathematics. But while they're excelling in mathematics, they are also taught that they should align themselves and associate with non-black people.
Yes.
That they should be the token black person in the non-black communities. Instead of saying, no, let's come together, let's be Pan-African, let's come together with other black people. And if I go to this special school and I learn it, let me come back to my community and teach the people that don't go to my special school, so that we as a community can know it and they can advance and we can really compete.
Yes.
Right. So, but some practical uses, just so I wrote a book in 2023 called How to Use All This Math, Volume 1.
All right. Is it on the website?
It is. There's a link. It's
right.
It's sold,
all right.
It's sold
so
Amazon right now.
That's where we're gonna start. We want people to buy the book. How much is the book?
The book is $34.95.
So we want everybody buy the book, support this brother. Let's spend some money with our Pan-African brother, because he's putting in the work. He's changing people's perception. Continue.
And yeah, let me tell you what you get if you decide to buy the book, right?
Yeah.
The book is a resource guide where I go over different topics, where I take everyday activities and show you how you as a parent, grandparent, uncle, aunt, whoever, you can, create math lessons, arithmetic lessons, algebra lessons, geometry lessons from those everyday activities, such as, if you eat pizza, if your children are eating candy. I show you how to work with fractions, how to introduce the concept of fractions, with that. And these are also things I've done with my own children, so they're battle tested. And that's another thing. So a lot of the things I do is like, I'm a 20 plus year veteran math teacher, and I have children, right? So things that I've learned, things that I've taught people I've been responsible for teaching in schools, I've also taught to my own children. So I know what works and what can work.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So I want us to think about this. Like, if you ever come in contact with a child and you know that child's parent is a math educator, your first prejudgment of that child would probably be, it's not a negative prejudgment. Your first prejudgment is probably that child is probably good at mathematics.
Yes.
Because of their pedigree, because of their parent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, typically that would be the case. But what I'm doing is I'm sharing with everybody. Like, look, I'm sharing with you what I did with my children. Okay. So I'm giving you like the game, so to speak, so that you can help your children in the same way I help mine. And you don't have to be a 20-year veteran math educator to do some of these things. I've kind of simplified the process, and these are a lot of the things that I put in my book.
Okay.
And this is only volume 1. It's called How to Use All This Math, volume 1. Because volume 2 is coming.
Okay.
Volume 3 is going to come. So I got a lot of different topics in there. And these are things that you can do on a daily basis with your children. So here's another thing. Like we talk about, the Malcolm X quote. Only a fool would send his children to be educated by his enemy. I think that the compromise with that is, because a lot of us have to go to work, so we may not be in a position to homeschool, but we can change the relationship that we have with the public or the private school that we don't control. For example, the school can become a space for practice as opposed to primary education.
Yes.
Meaning, if we in the community, whether it be in your house or in the church, in the masjid, or wherever you go, or right on the street corner when it's warm outside, the recreation center, right? If we learn how to solve equations, multi-step equations there, then when the child goes to school and the teacher puts that on the board, okay, this is the topic we're covering, then the child looks at that and says, okay, cool, I already know how to do this. Now we get to practice. So math class, they're prepared for math class, as opposed to what typically happens is students go into math class cold and don't know how to do the concept that they're exposed to. Everything is brand new. And like I said earlier, oftentimes there's not enough time for a student to develop proficiency. So this is why
I have a story about that, because I grew up in Toronto, Canada, in a Chinese community. And as a young person, I used to think that Chinese people were naturally brilliant at math, until I found out that on Saturdays, they had something called Chinese school. learning mathematics, all these things. So by the time they were coming to class, they had been doing this since they were young people.
That a head start.
So you know, we were wondering how are these Chinese people getting 90s and in algebra and all these things, because they were doing it since they were 8 years old in the Chinese school. So what you're saying, I lived that growing up. So very important.
So it's a model. It's a model, and it's nothing like brand new about it. It's nothing. It's not groundbreaking. It's just we just got to do it. Like, we know what to do. We just got to do it. So, but what I'm saying is, I've chosen to be the person, as this is my life's work. I've chosen to be the person that's going to provide those resources in order to facilitate that. Because it's one thing. Because it is one thing I don't like. I'll say this: a lot of people in my position will just kind of criticize people in the Black community and say, well, y'all should be doing this and y'all should be doing that, without providing any resources, without providing any guidance, right? So I'm like, I don't want to be one of those people, because I know that it's not that easy. It might seem that easy, but I don't think it's that easy. So I'm like, I published a book. So I got a book for you. You can follow the book and not only do the activities, but do them on a regular basis so the children get the repetition. Like, there's a chapter in there on unit conversions where I say, matter of fact, I got this container of this is not a promotion. They're not giving me a check, but I'm gonna use it for the example. So this bottle of hand sanitizer is 33.8 fluid ounces, but it's also 1 liter, right? So we can do a conversion from the British system to the metric system. So the liters metric system, the ounces British system. So there's a simple and shorthand mathematical equation you can use to find out. Let's say, well, if I know that 33.8 ounces is equivalent to 1 liter, how many ounces are in 2 liters? How many ounces are in 3 liters? How many ounces are in 4 liters? And what you're doing is you're giving your children opportunities to practice math and practice algebra, practice basic algebra in the comfort of their own home, right? Or you could ask the question, well, how many ounces or how many liters would be 40 ounces? How many liters would be 25 ounces, right? There's a chapter that goes into that. And just think about, like, practicing that on a daily basis, like every time they go into the kitchen and grab a snack, because everything has weight dimensions, capacity dimensions on it. Everything does, right? It could be a food item. It could be like a bottle of lotion, hand sanitizer, anything that has metric units and also British units on it. Anything that has both, we could do unit conversions. Another chapter, probably my favorite chapter in the book, is called negative age. This is the way to introduce negative numbers, right? Every time we tell our children a story about something that happened before they were born, that's an opportunity to introduce them to the negative side of the number line. I believe that as soon as we teach children how to count, we should be introducing the negative side of the number line.
Okay,
that's what we should be doing, right?
Serious.
But a lot of people don't get introduced to the negative side of the number line until algebra 1, which might not come until like the 8th grade. They don't need to wait that long, right? They're learning the numbers from 0 up. The negative side of the number line is just a mirror of that. But in this chapter, what I advocate is, like, you know, years ago, I was talking to my daughter randomly one day about something that happened when I was like 7 years old. So what I said to her, just randomly after the story, was like, well, Asada, it's my daughter's name. Asada, how old were you when that happened? So then she looked at me like I was crazy. She looked at me like I was crazy because she wasn't even born yet. But what I was trying to do is introduce her to the concept of negative numbers. So then she had to do the mathematics, because she knows that I was born. She knows my age. So then she knew that I was born in 1980. She calculated that. And then she said, okay, well, this is like a math word problem that a child might see on a state standardized test, right? But we're doing it together, like in a relaxed environment, right? So then if it happened when I was 7, she knows to add 1980 plus 7, which is 1987. This took place in 1987. She also knows that she was born in 2012. For all of us, if we put our lives on a number line chronologically, the year we were born would represent the 0 on the number, our personal number line. So then she has to calculate the difference between the year 2012 and the year 1987. And then there are different ways we can do that to practice our different math strategies and being flexible. So then she realized, okay, the difference between 1987 and 2000 is 13 years, and in 2012 is 12 years, 13 plus 12. And this is just one way to do it. 13 plus 12 is 25. So she knows that story that I was telling her, that happened 25 years before she was born. So therefore, she was negative 25 years old when that happened.
Wow.
And this is something we could do. Anytime you're telling your child a story about something that happened, but especially before they were born. Because we do this all the time as parents, grandparents. Like we talk about back in the day, back when I was your age and all this type of stuff. We say this type of stuff all the time. When we talk about our history, anytime we talk about our history, we might be talking about, I don't know, tomorrow is Christmas. We might be talking about the Christmas Rebellion in Jamaica with Samuel Sharp and Colonel Johnson. Might be talking about that. That happened in 1831.
Hold on, people. He's flexing. He went to Sam Sharp. All right, continue.
The same year as Nat Turner. Nat Turner's rebellion was that August. Samuel Sharp, Christmas Rebellion, that happened around Christmas time, later that same year. So we could ask the question, how old were you when that happened? So somebody asked me, how old was I when that happened? Okay, I'm born in 1980. So now I got to do the math. So what I'm going to do is 1831, that's from 1831 to 1900, that's 69 years, almost 70, that's 69 years. And then we're going to add 80. From 1900 to 19, that's 80. 80 plus 60 is 140, add the 9. That's a 149-year difference between that rebellion with Samuel Sharp against the British, right, which helped to lead to the abolishment of slavery in Jamaica, and my birth year, which was 1980.
Okay.
So I was negative 169 years old when it happened. So you see how we get to that's I gotta come back. I gotta come back and talk about hystematics, because that's hystematics, because we're practicing math while talking about Black history at the same time.
I love.
They get to practice the mathematics.
That's so practical, because now you're taking these abstract concepts and showing how we integrate these things, but we talk about them in different ways. But just by tweaking the word sound that you use with your children, you can get them to key in that, okay, this is what a negative number is before I was born. So I love that practical application. We're a little bit over time, but I love it. But I have to leave one last question, because there's a whole controversy. There's these diaspora wars that are happening. I don't know if you're familiar with the FBA and the ADOS, and a lot of people are attacking Pan-African, or being Pan-African as a waste of time. But if you were applying the mathematical principle, you know what I mean, you would realizing that segmenting yourself is not a good mathematics strategy in terms of demonstrating power on this global chessboard. I want to hear, this is my thought, but are you foundational African American or Black American?
I consider myself an African American, if anybody asks, but an African born in America.
Yeah, and that's a Pan-African viewpoint. I support it. But your family is not from any island or not from the continent.
Nah.
So how do you feel about this debate as someone from this land, and then from a Pan-African perspective and applying mathematical principles? How would you correlate the kind of cognitive dissonance, I think, that comes with wanting to separate yourself from a greater mass?
I mean, there's a lot of things I can say about it. I'm not an advocate of it. I would say that first and foremost. I feel like what Marcus Garvey said, when he was asked about, claiming Jamaica over Africa. He said, I would never trade a continent for an island, and I wouldn't trade the African continent for the United States. You know, yeah, I don't think it makes good political sense. You know,
Yeah.
but I also have been kind of watching and observing and looking at the people that are very vocal about, you know, claiming FBA or claiming ADOS.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seems to me, and you know, maybe you know somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Well, you can't correct me if I'm wrong because I know what I've observed.
Yeah.
It seems like they want a check, they want a reparations check, and they
Yeah.
think that this will give them a better chance to get a reparations check. So I'm like, okay, I understand it.
And then
But
what?
yeah, exactly. Then I'm like, okay, and then what's going to happen? So yeah, it doesn't make. And I also think that it's similar to mathematics. Like there are people that
Yeah.
will say that certain topics in mathematics should not be taught because they don't work or they're unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
But the same people, but the only people that are qualified to say that are people that have studied mathematics in great depth
Mm-hmm.
and up to a certain level. So people that say, well, Pan-Africanism doesn't work and that it's worthless, you would have to have studied Pan-Africanism in a great depth and in great
Yeah.
detail in order to say that. You can't just, I don't know, you can't just, watch some influencer online and like what he says, and he or she might have said the right things to get you riled up, and then
Yes.
say, yeah, you know what, you're right, Pan-Africanism is a sham, and it doesn't work, and it never, all it, you got to study it, you got to do some work, and I don't know of anybody that aligns themselves with those movements that is actually really studied. And not to say that those people don't exist, but I would like to possibly read some serious analysis
Yes.
of why somebody would want to claim that, because you're going to be connected to something, and whether they realize it or not, by claiming those two designations, you're linking yourself to the United States of America as opposed to the African diaspora.
Yes.
And also, here's another thing. What I think is a lot of people also, from what I've observed, it's reactionary. It's a reaction to bad treatment. Like a person that, like myself, was born in the United States, whose parents were born in the United States, whose grandparents were born in the United States. If they receive some negative treatment from a person that was born on the continent, or they receive some negative treatment from a person that was born in the Caribbean, then it's like it's a reaction. It's a reaction to that. But the question becomes, back to the mathematics, the statistics, is that an outlier or is that the norm? Because I might receive bad treatment from a person that was from Jamaica. But does that mean that I believe that all Jamaicans, or that's the norm for Jamaicans? So therefore I need to, unalign, I need to not be aligned with Jamaicans, or if I receive poor treatment or, from somebody that is because I also understand colonization.
Yeah.
I understand how colonization works. I understand just like a lot of us are colonized, and that's a sickness.
Yeah.
And a lot of our brothers and sisters on the continent are colonized, and it's a sickness. And a lot of brothers and sisters in the Caribbean are colonized. So, but I also know that, just because if I receive poor treatment does not mean that I abandon a political objective and a political goal that has actually provided a lot of benefits, whether people recognize it or not, because they haven't studied.
They haven't
So
studied.
it's easy for somebody to say, oh, well, Pan-Africanism don't work because we're still fighting against racism. So that's proof that Pan-Africanism don't work. Nah, that's not how none of this works. That's not analysis.
No.
That's not analysis. So
it's very important to see how things are linked. Brown versus Board of Education took place right before the first visit of His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie in 1954, because the United States wanted to show, because at the time, Russia was putting out propaganda about the racial discrimination, bringing the first African head of state to ever come to America was His Imperial Majesty, and they pushed through Brown versus Board of Education. So people don't understand how geopolitics plays on domestic decisions. The liberation and the legislation in the civil rights was a counter to the Cold War that was taking place, and the rise and the liberation of Africa. So everything works together. I think it's very naive. It's tribalism. I support Black Americans or African Americans being proud of their culture, and I don't support people coming over here and saying there's no culture here, or trying to denigrate the struggle. I think African American culture is the most influential culture on the planet, followed by Jamaican culture, and then we give it to our Nigerian brothers and sisters, although they coming up. But I don't think there's even a contest. African American culture is number one, because if you go to Jamaica, they trying to be Black Americans. You know what I mean? They singing trap dancehall right now. You know what I mean? So what are we talking about here? You know what I mean? So I don't support that, but the logical conclusion of that is not to destroy Pan-Africanism, which is what they're trying to do, or some of the proponents of that philosophy. They're being proud of their culture, but then at the same time they want to talk bad against Pan-African. So I'm glad that you have that perspective, but I knew that the cloth that you were cut from once you said John Henry Clark. And you called the name. I already knew where you was going to land on these topics.
Yeah, and if I can I let me real quickly, I know because we've been talking for a minute, but if I can add another dynamic.
Yeah.
When I first got introduced to it, the idea, like I didn't like the terminology, but I thought it was harmless because I know about Karenga's work from the 70s, his analysis and Kawaida.
Yeah.
And I remember the disagreement that Karenga had with Kwame Ture.
Yeah.
Kwame Ture being a ardent Pan-Africanist,
yes.
Karenga was too. But where they differed was Kwame Ture's position was we're Africans, period.
Yes.
Like we just Africans, right?
Yeah.
But then Karenga pushed back and said, but wait a minute, brother, like Africans in America, we've had a certain type of experience, as we all have.
Yes.
Throughout the diaspora. We've had our own experiences that have been shaped by geography, by who our colonizer was, what our experience was on that land.
Yeah.
But they never, but Karenga never said that he wanted to separate from Pan-African, separate from the continent, and not be part of the diaspora. Like he never said that. So when I first heard about it, I'm thinking, oh well, this seems harmless. That's what Karenga said back in the 70s. That's just that. But then I realized, like, oh no, they're taking it to another level. Like
they're taking it
this is a little wild.
Yeah, they want to completely. They don't want nothing to do with Africa.
Yeah, like
you know what I mean. So it's extreme, but it's tribalism. At the end of the day, it's tribalism, and we understand. Those of us who have been studying understand what it is, and it's a minority. Most of the conscious community is still Pan-African. When I go to functions and I reason with people who have been on the battlefield, a lot of these people are just coming into their consciousness, and so they're swept up in that. I'm part of a team. I'm part of, what I mean? It feels good to be part of a team and a squad, and we squatting up and all of that. But we're, united we stand, divided we fall, and divide and rule is the only plan. So once you know that, then you would know that, separating yourself from your global brothers and sisters who have gone through the same affliction that you have doesn't make logical sense. You know what I mean? Especially when we look at aggregating capital globally and what we can do with that, and we look at the resources of the African continent, what we could do controlling that. You know what I mean? You would quickly come to your sense and say, let's unite and come together as one. You know what I mean? But I give thanks. I'm not gonna hold you any longer. We're at the 2.5 hour mark. This is how we do it over here, though. This is Rastafari.
Make sure everybody make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe.
Oh yes. Talk about the YouTube channel. Just quickly give a boost to the YouTube.
Yeah, so my YouTube channel has over 1,000 culturally responsive math tutorial videos. So I cover all ages and grades. I go from arithmetic up to calculus. So I got math tutorial videos on a lot of topics. They're organized into different playlists. So just go into the playlist, look for your topic, whatever your child needs, whatever you might need, and also infuse Black history and culture into the videos. I might have a Marcus Garvey T-shirt on, when I'm about to record one of my videos, and I may like strategically have a brief conversation about Garvey for about the first 30 to 90 seconds, and then we start solving equations or doing whatever was planned to be worked on.
Nice.
So you get the mathematics and the Black history, which is my hystematics teaching framework, where you get both. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Tell everybody you know about the channel.
What's the name of the channel? What's the name of the channel?
The channel is All This Math on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube, All This Math.
So everybody go subscribe to the platform. You see the socials on the banner below. Go to the website, buy the book. Don't embarrass me, family. I'm trying to bring forward the top quality. But we gotta spend some money. I tell everybody, put it in your budget. Lion.
And let me add this too. If you buy the book, all I ask is that you use it. Use it.
Yeah.
Like write notes in it. Dog ear the pages. Try to understand. I put some history in there too. I got some practice problems in there.
Okay, nice.
20 different topics. Short chapters. But it's dense with information. And if you go to the YouTube channel, please subscribe, but also use the channel. Watch some videos, take some notes, learn some new things. It's over 1,000 videos on it. Don't let it overwhelm you. Don't let it intimidate you. I break things down and I explain things in a way where a lot of people say about me and my teaching style, the adults especially say, I wish you'd have been my teacher 30 years ago.
Wow.
That's usually what I get. So feel free, tap in, please use it on a regular basis.
I love that. So family, we have a new brethren here on the Lion Voice Network. This is not the last. This is only the first. We're going to bring him forward. We want to get more into the history and mathematics intersection. Brethren has branded it, doing some big things. He's also, if you love this reasoning, go over to I Never Knew TV. Check out, he has several interviews over on I Never Knew TV. That's our brother network over there. Go check them out. Make sure you subscribe over there as well. Big up Junior the Ballhead doing his thing. Big up everyone who watch live, the hundreds that will watch on the replay. This is part of our commitment to science, technology, engineering, the arts and mathematics. Title of this, we said building self and STEAM, because to build up ourselves as a people, as a nation, requires that we get into these technical fields. It requires us to build institutions. You can't build an institution without mathematics. It's entwined in everything, every facet of the building process. Whether you're dealing with staff, whether you're dealing with budget, math is going to come in somewhere along the line. So we don't want this to be the boogeyman where math, we get afraid of mathematics. So this is going to be one of our guides. We've had mathematicians on the platform before, and we're going to continue to bring forward more as we find them. So I really give thanks on behalf of the global Lion Voice Network family, the Lion Pride. Give thanks, Brother Akil. This is your home. Anything you're doing, you want to promote, let us know too. It's a two-way street. You know what I mean, my brother?
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I was riveted by the life story and by how you utilize mathematics. So we're going to continue to keep building. So there you have it, family. Akil Parker, mathematician. He has his own business. He has over 1,000 videos on YouTube. Everyone who watches this should go and subscribe. Everyone who watches this should go and buy the book. And we're not going to stop. Why? Because the time has come for the Lions to tell our own story. And this is the lion voice. Blessing, blessing, blessing.
Yeah, man. Greetings, Rastafari, Hail Emperor the King Selassie the First, the Perfect Balance Empress Menin. This is first man for Rastafari Indigenous Village, recognizing, accepting, promoting Lion Voice. Yes, the voice of Rastafari, speaking about Rastafari, educating Rastafari, preserving, protecting Rastafari. Give thanks.
Aye, Rastafari, mighty.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes. Wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega, representing for all lions and lionesses. With the lion's voice, we come to tell our story. Rastafari, live it. Hey, the lion's voice, Rastafari.
Blessed love, this is Rashala representing for the Lion Voice, seeing? Yeah, man, keep it locked right there, sir. On to Zion we go. Lion Voice don't move slow, no. Rastafari rules and reigns, and we're going where the blessings flow. Keep it locked right there, sir, seeing? Rashala said that. Lion's Voice.
I'm Nana Farika. The time has come for the lioness to tell her story from her viewpoint and tell the world who Queen Omega is. This is the lion's voice.
Greetings, this is Junior Morgan of Bob Marley and the Wailers. The time has come for the lion to tell his story. And we have here the lion voice. So listen in and get nourishment for the stomach and for the head cup. Jah,
Rastafari. Give thanks,
give thanks and praise every time.
Great honor, great honor.
What are you waiting for? Come together, calling from near and far. Know who you are. What are you waiting for? Rally up, it takes the dust. What are you waiting for? Ancestors paved the way for us. Yes, I am Ketis Oyonde, asking, what are you waiting for to come together? The time has come for the lions to tell our own story. This is the lion's voice.
It's AWTITUDE representing for Lion's Voice. Yes, massive. This is the time for I and I, the lion them to tell I and I story, our story. Yes, and we reign and rule like this. Reign and rule, yeah. Selassie, I reign and rule. You can't take the lion vibes, people. If you no fool, cause we know Selassie reign and rule. Reign and rule. Selassie, I reign and rule. Queen Omega drop them in the fire, pull from them, no Queen Omega, she reign and rule. Royal Kushite, ancient essence, Emperor Selassie in a majestical presence, flash of all sevens, projecting through I and I events. We sing a song for the king, we bring joy and blessing and understanding, yeah. We hear Jah every day, hey. Reign and rule, yeah. Selassie, I reign and rule. Yes, I lion vibes, Selassie, I reign and rule. Attitude say that. Boondocks, Black Organization of Global Diplomats optimizing expressions to the world. Till the world, till the end.
Well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, for the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice.